talking about entertainment.
Live.
We are. It just happens.
It happens. I'm ready.
That's the way my
Hello,
intro goes.
everybody.
It just stops in the middle of it, so you can't be prepared. So you're just like, "What's that? Oh my god!" It's the cutting principle called in media res, which is how they teach you how to cut and write scenes starting in the middle of things. So to try to artificially manufacture excitement, it's like when they do the shows, when they cut into like the talk shows and they're at the desk and you see them talking to somebody but you can't hear them. It's like that.
Oh,
cut in and
I got it.
So cool.
You know,
that's so cool.
It's just also my excuse for not having cut a better fade out to that yet.
And it's very punk rock too. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's very punk. It's very alternative.
Very alternative.
Against the grain. Oh my god, 2000s when the alternative came in. It is. It's when it all started to get like Modest Mouse, and I also think that's when like Chili Peppers, even though Chili Peppers have been around since like the freaking 80s, like got really popular.
All the hipsters loved them. All the hipsters needed to have Chili Peppers everything. Anyway, Will Gentry obviously knows exactly how the show is going to go. As you can tell from all the descriptions and all these things. You know, actually, if you read the description, no, we did not have any men tell us what to do or what to say, in spite of always being accused of that. Because, well, what happens when you have women who are discrediting your talking points about sexism? Well, you have to discredit those women. Otherwise, you might run the risk of being wrong, and that would just be too difficult.
You get a threat. That's what you get. You get a threat to the narrative.
Exactly.
And they don't like that.
Speaking of threats, I don't think it comes as a surprise as anyone that there are still people in this world, though not us in the fandom largely, but there are still plenty of people in this world who do find strong women to be quite threatening for some reason or another. And don't want us to have a voice and don't want us to get to talk about many of these things. But sorry, I bring this up because I got a really interesting message tonight out of the blue. I got a text from my ex-boyfriend, to whom I haven't spoken in over a year, and
so weird.
Yes, although I have to say, to his credit, it was a good text, right? He says, "Oh, hey, so salutations, and hope you are well. I got a random Instagram message that feels like someone who is trying to make trouble for you. Anonymous account with no followers and no one following. Anyway, hope you are doing well. Good luck to you." And here's a screen cap of the random message I got just now. It's this person goes, their Instagram, if you guys want to harass them, go feel free because they don't deserve it. Their handle is that all to it? It's one word. So if you want to go Instagram, I'll put it right here at is that all to it. If anyone wants to give this guy recommendations about not committing libel in the future or minding his own effing business, I highly recommend shooting him a direct message to say exactly that, because he, out of the blue, decided to send a direct message to my ex-boyfriend, again, to whom I've not spoken in over a year, to say, "Hi, sir. Hate to do this incognito." No, you don't. If you had balls, you would tell people who you are.
Incognito.
Yeah. "I just don't know if you're still friends with her or not. Jessie Milestone," didn't even spell my name right, by the way. Spelled it Jesse. "I think you dated her a while back. Anyway, she talks bad about you all of the time. The whole victim mentality, that she was the victim, men are bad, blah, blah, blah."
What?
"The problem is, I think she had sex with this guy I know while she was dating you. Now she's doing the same thing to him. And she's doing the same thing to guys that work at Krav Maga." I don't know what Krav Maga is, but it's really interesting. I might have to check it out. "She seems to have a steady and common thread of playing the victim when it comes to men. I just want you to watch out because she badmouthed you. If you want ammunition against her, I could tell you the guy that she slept with while she was dating you."
Good thing your ex-boyfriend seemed to know, like, that didn't sound like you enough to tell you that, hey, like, there's this really shady weirdo going around spreading a bunch of misinformation. So that's a real testament to you. Because, like, they know, like, that's a good thing. But fuck that person. I mean, I don't understand. I don't get people like that. I really don't. This sort of need to go out and ruin somebody's life in some way, shape, or form with this character defamation. And that's typically, you know, I hate to say it, but that's kind of like a female characteristic I've noticed, is that's how they sort of attack other people. I've dealt with it, you know, from other women that I know where I worked. I noticed they would make up weird stories about the men who didn't give them the time of day. If they had some sort of feelings or sexual attraction to them, they would start telling me, oh, he's really just a creep. He does all this stuff. And there's no evidence to suggest that that's the truth. So I never bought into it. But the thing is, people will believe anything as long as it's juicy. And that's what scares me.
I wonder if it's the same person, because there's really weird thing happened right when Jeff and I started dating, where a random person I know got emails purportedly. I mean, sent me the image pictures of them and whatnot. But just someone else I know unconnectedly got weird emails of this very similar ilk and tenor. And yeah, which is funny because based on this guy's perspective, he said, "Oh, well, you did that with a friend of mine while she was dating you, and now she's doing it to him." So, hey, Jeff,
that voice.
Which one of your friends is the one who sent this message? Because apparently it's a friend of yours. Because apparently I cheated on my ex with the person I'm now dating, which is obviously you. So, which one of your friends is randomly harassing my ex? Like, which one of your friends even knows my ex's name?
It was Dion. I'm just kidding.
Clearly Dion. It has nothing better to do with his exactly.
Dion's busy doing
having a job, being a dad, and doing the podcast. Yeah, not exactly.
Nah, I was just making a dumb joke. Everyone
seems
to blame
exactly.
Dion.
Exactly. It's anyway. Yeah, actually probably is the bikini shots guy after Grace. So that's a good guess. We love bikini shots guy. He's the one who decided to pay for pictures of me in a bikini. Tell me what he was doing with them afterwards, prompted me to say, please shut up and go away. And then later on got all buttered about something completely unrelated and wanted to comment that I don't even know what was on the channel. And then he Instagram has me being like, I guess you didn't like my comment. I'm like, I don't even know what your comment was. I like clicked through my comment section. I don't care. And he's all like, well, whatever, you're ugly anyway. And I didn't like those pictures. I'm like, bro, one, you paid $100. Two, I have all of the messages still that say exactly to the contrary. So I don't know who you're kidding. Three, why would you are the guy who spent $150 to jack off to pictures of me. Why do you think that your approval has meaning? I know exactly who you are and what type of person you are. You're not going to fool me on this one and get me to suddenly think you're some kind of amazing, influential person whose opinion I should court and care about. Sorry, guy, you showed your hand too quickly on that one.
He's the nice guy. The nice guy.
The nice guy.
The nice guy that's like, I'll be nice to you so I can get some sort of like sexual gratification from you. But when they don't get it, they turn into big assholes. And I've experienced it quite a bit, as I'm sure all of us have experienced that. They'll say that they're a nice guy, that they treat women right, that they believe in equal rights and all this sort of stuff, sort of like bragging about themselves, like, as opposed to like just talking about themselves. Women can find the difference in that, men. So don't brag to women, you know, just talk to them. We're people too. But, you know, I've had experiences like that where they get really bent out of shape. I mean, like the number of people that have done that to me. I mean, if bullshit could fly, it'd be an airport. It just
absolutely.
The supreme gentleman. Yes.
And the primary reason I have to bring this up is not just because it's fun gossip, but it is to say, you know, just in case this person or any similar-minded people are watching the show. I'm not saying his name because I don't want anyone else to feel entitled to reach out for him, but do not reach out to my ex. As you can clearly see from this exchange, he's on my side with this bullshit. We did not, you know, we're not friends. We haven't, like I said, we haven't spoken in over a year. We're not friends. We don't want to be in each other's lives anymore. So please do not, one, give us reasons to have to be involved in each other's lives. And two, please do not harass the poor guy. He is off living his own life. He has moved on from me, I hope. He is happy doing whatever he is doing. I hope. Our breakup had nothing to do with anything public that is anybody's business but ours. And it ended relatively amicably as far as adult breakups can go. The end. Do not harass my ex, that one or any other ex. None of my fucking exes one, know anything that's going to help you dig up all this dirt on me and tear me down. And two, will be willing to share it with you if they do. So if you find a guy out there who says they're my ex and they got all this great dirt on me, they're lying to you. And if you find one of my exes, leave them the fuck alone, because we are fine with each other's mutual existence. We have no interest in being involved in each other's lives anymore, let alone going out of our way to sabotage each other's lives. So leave these people the fuck alone. Stop seeking them out. Stop harassing them. What the fuck is wrong with you? That's all. That's all I really wanted to say, because why?
Yeah, why?
Just
How
why?
did they even find your ex?
I have no
That seems
idea.
a little weird to me. It's like they went above.
Yeah, I mean, his name is out there. We used to, I mean, there were pictures of us, tagged places and Facebook together. We were in a relationship on Facebook and stuff. So if he had followed back then, he may have logged that information of what this guy's name was. Good for you, creepy a-hole. But it's certainly, the thing is, it's not that difficult to track him down and to figure out who he is, but it also would take a minute or take a concerted effort to do it. So it's like, what the fuck? Why?
Isn't it amazing how there's such a strong correlation between creepy people and how determined they are to wiggle their way? And it's like, you can always tell a normal person will just kind of let you be and organically let interactions unfold. But those people that need to wiggle their way into these strange interactions, like finding your ex-boyfriend to reach out and try to cause some kind of a rift in that way, is such a incognito, strange
fedora wearing weirdo. Just playing. Fedora so out of season.
Oh yeah,
I had to bring it up. But no, I have an example of that. There's this guy. It's really interesting because my name's Montana, but his name is Dallas, and we did horseback together, and I had not talked to him for years and years and years. And eventually found each other on Facebook, and then we started talking. And he's one of those, I guess what you'd call a Menonist. I don't know what the correct terminology for him, because he's kind of beyond MGTOW. He goes beyond the MGTOW thing.
I believe that's...
Is that black pill?
Is that...
Yeah, black pilled or something like that. I don't know what the word is. I just know that he would take things really far, and he would kind of intentionally try to pick fights with me, or telling me about women are just these hypergamous creatures that want nothing but money and good looking men. I'm just like, for one, men and women have a right to choose who they want to be with. They have a right to choose a partner that's going to fit their lifestyle, both men and women. I've always believed that. And so whenever a woman just doesn't want you, probably doesn't have to do with the fact that you don't have money. It has more to do with the fact that you're a creep, and that you're sitting here making backhanded comments to me. I am a girl. I know how to register backhanded comments. All right.
Yeah,
I've been there.
No, you're a lesser creature. You don't have enough brain cells to process those things.
No, I don't, man. I'm running on one brain cell pretty much all the time.
That's it. One big.
Being puppeteered by Dallas himself. That's
also, I just realized I didn't get to properly let you guys introduce yourselves because I'm a jerk who just railroaded ahead. So downstairs there, Jedi Bunny, why don't you say hello?
Hello, I'm Jedi Bunny. I was perfectly comfortable. I feel like this is a little slumber party, so
I love it. I got my hot tea, my peach tea, I have my blanket.
I got
my blanket. I got my lemonade.
I have multiple drinks with me right now. I'm feasting on a cream soda Zevia.
Nice. I got my LaCroix hibiscus as well.
Ooh, LaCroix.
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 That's probably how some people down here say it.
Yeah. Greg Kirby says, I knew it was Cecil. It probably was. Cecil is the one who paid for the bikini pictures, no doubt. That's true. Jury Nitpicker says, just watched your take on the Gina situation. I'm a heave as well, and I 100% agree with you. Great points. P.S. Thanks for the pics. There you go. Dox yourself. Lol, JK just started the channel. There's a weird point. Thanks, Jury Nitpicker, and thanks for all your lovely comments over there in the High Council, too. It was really sweet to hear what you said. Yonder. He was endorsing my relationship with the lovely Jeff Hicks. What? No, high alcohol content. Not tonight, Nate Dogs. We have very serious matters to attend to.
Yes.
So we actually do. We have a fun topic tonight. And don't worry, it won't all be serious, hardcore topics. Oh, SweetP, you should do your proper introduction as well.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm back again, and my name is SweetP. I hail from the great state of Texas. I'm a writer and an artist, and I love ponies, and I hate other women. I'm just kidding. Sometimes I do, but I'm very pleased to be here, and I just wanted to reiterate the fact that, like, I watched last week's stream just to view the comments and stuff. So if I didn't, like, say anything, it's because I couldn't see the chat, and I felt like if I were to touch anything in this little, like, panel that I have here, I would have just shut down the stream. So I'm not ignoring anybody. I'm not good at multitasking very well.
SweetP, I am 100% with you. When I'm live streaming on my own channel, I try to read every comment and I still miss them. But when I'm on other people's channels, I try to look to the right. But if I type, I can't multitask because my attention only goes in one direction. So I'm hanging out with you guys and the chat's here, but I can't talk to them usually.
At least you guys aren't Emily. Emily, sometimes when she's on, will start talking in the middle of a conversation that the rest of us were having. We'll start talking out loud to the chat. So, I generally find that's the nice thing is when you're on here. I know it's weird sometimes going from like usually being in, in a chat on some streams and not and whatnot. Sometimes it's best to be like, love you, chat. You're here for the mindless mob, but you're here for the stream tonight. Let me worry about the chat. I'll pull up anything important and. Most people know that I tend to read more of my chat than a lot of other people do. So
yeah, but I saw all the love that was given whenever I was having my moment. I was a little tipsy, I'm not gonna lie, but I cried. But I appreciate all the love and the support from the people that were saying nice things. I was very much so appreciated it. It was very much so appreciated. So I wasn't ignoring anybody. I really appreciate you guys. And I appreciate Jessie for having me on her stream too. I forgot to thank her for about a millionth time, but I still feel like I need to thank you because you're just a great person to me. And I love watching your stuff and supporting you in any way I can. So thank you again for having me. And I'm excited to meet Kelly too. I've been dying to talk to her all freaking week. I was like, oh my God, yes, she's here.
Well, this is gonna be so exciting. So without further ado, we'll dive in a little bit. We'll start in on our first topic. Although I do another exciting little piece of news, which I could do first if we wanted, which is I had another audition. So separate from the other one that I'm not allowed to talk about because I decided to be right now. This one did technically say confidential on the bottom. But it's also for General Hospitals, so I don't think anyone cares that much.
General Hospitals?
Yeah.
Stop. My mom used to freaking watch that soap all the time. Every day it was on. And I was like, is this show ever going to end? It was before I knew what soap operas were. It's never going to end. And I'm like, it's never going to end.
Well, guess what? Now they're going to prison, apparently, which I'm not at liberty to say. So you didn't hear that and you don't know that. Okay. And if you guys want, I will show you an audition that is definitely not the audition I just mentioned because I definitely wouldn't share confidential things on here.
Oh, yeah.
Optic Racer, if you were on the stream where certain things were said, you can't talk about that because I got excited and blurted things out before I signed my NDA. So you don't know that thing. If you know that thing, you don't know it. It's just an audition though, so it's still nothing confirmed on that one either. But anyway, so I'm just going to share this with you. Feel free to make fun of me. This was done last minute because I almost missed this completely. This was Valentine's Day, waking up after drinking the night before on pre-Valentine's Day going, fuck, I have 2 hours to get this done. So this is what happened.
Aw, you look so cute.
Full makeup and all that. After breakfast, we get an hour here in the yard, followed by whatever work you're assigned to. I don't know why it's glitching like that. That's weird. Sorry, I'm just going to quit it and reopen it.
It sounds like something that would happen to me. Me and technology, we're not the best of friends. And I know some people try to explain it to me, and I'm just like, listen, dude, I'm a fucking retard. I can't take information it has to depend on what the information is. As an artist, I have to see you can't just tell me what to do. I have to see somebody do it sometimes, and then I have to do it myself. to actually learn something. But once I get it by God. And
That's
then I'm
so
good and set for life.
true. I can relate to that. I can really relate to that. Visual. I like visual
stuff.
And breakfast. We get an hour here in the yard. So now I'm worried that I didn't, because I was in a rush, didn't scan things, and that this actually copied in
whatever work you're assigned to.
Visually glitching, and that's terrible. I didn't get dropped from my agency though, so that's good.
Okay.
So apparently I can't share that with you because apparently it looks terrible. It can't. No, I definitely went through this at some point. It definitely is. It's definitely just the computer being retarded, not the other way around. All right. Maybe it's a sign to share it though. But anyway, so that's exciting. And I'm getting all these fun auditions again. That's very exciting. So we'll
that's
see.
I'm
awesome,
excited.
Jesse.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, girl. Like, get it. Kick all
And
those other weirdos out of there.
And when I was recording on Saturday with Richard, by the way, we were supposed to record again today, but I had an weird allergy attack and take Benadryl. Slept most of the afternoon. It sucked. We're recording on Thursday again. But on Saturday, after the interview, we were chatting, and I talking about my screenplay that I'm writing, and he is interested in it, which is like, you're good at movies. You made Star Wars.
Oh my God.
You edited Star Wars, and you think this was good.
That would be like if Don Bluth saw some of my drawings, was like, I want to make something out of that you draw. Because I'm a huge Don Bluth fan. None of my favorite like movies from when I was growing up are Disney films. They're all Don Bluth films, like Secret of NIMH, Land Before Time, freaking, All Dogs Go to Heaven. I even like Rockadoodle. Don't even like, I love Rockadoodle. I don't care how stupid.
I love Rockadoodle too. Oh my God.
The Elvis Rooster.
Dude, my mom can tell you I loved that movie so much as a kid. I used to watch it over and over and over.
Yes.
Oh God.
And then American Tail stuff. Everything, like, I love Don Bluth's work because Don Bluth is one of those guys. I think he's been famously coined saying, like, you can essentially show a child anything as long as there's like a happy ending at the end. Like, there's like a reward for your hardship at the end of it. So I mean, like, it would like, not obviously showing a child like gore and like Freddy versus Jason style crap, but like, just like the emotional weight of some of the things that he's shown you, like with Land Before Time especially. I still to this day will fight anybody and say that Land Before Time, the death of Littlefoot's mother, is sadder than when Bambi's mom died.
Dude, oh God, and you
when Simba's father died, because granted, let me finish this out real quick and then I'll let y'all guys segue into the stuff. But when you see those films, like with Bambi, like, it cuts to spring and it's happy and like there's everything's new and he's grown up. With Lion King, when Simba, after Mufasa dies, he pretty much meets Timon and Pumbaa almost immediately, and they sing a happy song about no worries. But with Littlefoot, you actually spend time with him while he's dealing with his grief, while he's just moping around, trying to find a way, like rolling in his mother's footprints to get her scent, thinking that her shadow is her, thinking that his shadow is
that part kills me. The shadow and the rock fucking kills me every time.
Oh, I can't. I have chills just thinking about it.
No. That film, like,
Don Bluth gives kids more credit than Disney does. That's, I think,
it does. And so at the end of the day, like, well, I still do love and enjoy some Disney films. Like, I love The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I love Beauty and the Beast, but it's usually around the Renaissance area. And then after that, I've just kind of completely canceled Disney out. But Don Bluth's films have stayed with me to this day, and I can still watch them and still feel the weight, even more so as an adult than I did when I was a child, of the emotional stake that was in a lot of them, especially The Secret of NIMH. If you go back and watch that film, it's quite dark, but it's beautiful. I mean, the score alone is just absolutely breathtaking. Like, I love listening to the score. And Land Before Time, James Horner's score. Sorry, I had to give.
That was James Horner, yes.
It was James Horner, didn't it?
Yeah,
sorry, Jesse, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're great. I'm enjoying listening to you get so excited. I love that movie too. It fucking breaks my heart, but I love it.
I know, me too.
Barb Rogers, Little Miss Sunburn. Thank you for the Karate Shiba Inu.
Stickers.
Thank you for the super sticker. William Forge says, "Hi Jesse, it's me, John Forge." Well, that's a name change, I guess. How have y'all been? How have you been? Love all you ladies. I've been doing very, very well myself. And thank you for the love. We laugh the laugh, as Lando says. I laugh the laugh.
Laugh the love.
Because Lando has a creepy German accent. I don't know why.
I can't do German. I would sound terrible trying to do it. But thank you. I love you too, William Forge or John Forge.
William John Forge.
John Forge.
And Jury Nitpicker says, so did you get the memo about us Hebes supposedly running the world banks and world domination? I guess I didn't. I'm broke as hell. So yeah, I love that one too. Like, yeah, you guys run the banks. I'm like, then where's my fucking money?
Yeah. Wait, I'm not Jewish. Never mind.
the one thing we do run is Hollywood, so I just gotta get my foot in the door on that front, and I'll be good to go.
That was great.
And Jury Nitpicker says, and you're welcome. That meant a lot to me. That was one of my lowest points in my life. I lost everything, so thank you again. P.S. Hello, ladies. Hello, Jury Nitpicker. He was talking earlier on the he lost his home in in one of the big fires. 2018. Yeah, so he's been rebuilding now and moving forward and managing. But I think I became aware of that. I was helping to, anytime someone brought me any crowdfunders then for people who lost their homes, people who lost them in those fires, I was trying to get as much attention for that as possible because it was, it was awful. Those darn space lasers starting all the fires.
Was that from freaking Real Genius? Or is that this conspiracy theory about the lasers shooting?
No, that's a real conspiracy theory now. That's that's a real thing apparently. That's apparently where isn't that sad though? We're like, oh, is this the plot of a ridiculous movie or is this something that we actually believe now? No, it's something we believe now. All right.
I thought, oh, Real Genius with Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer when he was young. I'm just like, oh.
Batman Forever. He is my Batman. He is a sexy fucking Bruce Wayne. He is a sexy fucking Batman.
God, I know. I'm just like Doc Holliday. That's right. First, I was like, who is he? I love him.
He steals that movie. He's so good in that.
I saw it. Jeffrey Turner, thank you for the super chat. Asks, anyone see Little Nemo: Adventures in Slumberland?
No, I kind of feel bad.
I cannot say that I have. I've heard of it, but I can't say that I have it. I've seen it. Now, because of a listener sending like a $50 freaking super chat for it, Jeff and I did last year watch the Wow Wow Wizzy Wazzy Wibble Wobble Woo or something like that. Yeah, that's real.
What is that?
Children's entertainment made by a guy by himself because he felt very strongly about making these ridiculous movies for children.
Cat guy.
Oh my gosh.
It's frightening.
Oh my gosh. How long is it?
It's like an hour or something. Yeah, it's a lot.
Is it on YouTube? Is it like where do you find it?
I think we just found it on YouTube or something like that.
Oh.
It was findable. It was not hard to find.
It's so strange. It's one thing if someone's pet project is like an independent film that they source themselves, they write, and they really want to make it happen. But it's a little weird when it's specifically for children and it's like handmade by one person.
We read all about this. It was weird. It's one of these guys. I think these people it just happens. There's some people who, for whatever, I think it's people who get stunted due to trauma a lot of the times. I'm trying to remember if there's something specific in his story or not, but basically it was something where if you don't ever have the opportunity to connect to children at a certain age in your development in a certain way, then you look for that. I mean, that's a lot of reasons a lot of theories people have about Michael Jackson, that even though he was inappropriate with the kids, he wasn't doing anything. There was a different intention there because he was just trying to establish relationships that he was never able to have at that age. So it's like, while it doesn't excuse behaviors that come of it, it's really sad when you go into the psychology of why people end up doing it.
I agree. It's like a very, the human psyche is so infinitely intrinsic that it's just, you only will ever scrape the surface. I mean, Carl Jung even said there's a shadow in all of us, and I actually pretty much agree with that. I don't care what anyone says, you are not above corruption. That's why I like being broke to an extent, but I like being broke because you get a taste for power, and that's kind of scary, and it's hard to, it's like you think that you would have all this, you'd be responsible with it, that you would you know, you would take it by the reins and you do all these, you know, great things with it, but you don't really know because you're not in that situation.
It's true.
So I mean, this is just the truth. Like, people will be corrupted. It's very easy. Even nobody just starts out evil. That's why I don't believe that people are inherently one thing or the other. I think they're inherently both.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
always agreed with that, because everybody has the potential for darkness, these untapped desires and feelings that we may not even realize or that we have. And so,
Exactly.
you know, for what, you know, creepy people out there that, you know, like kids, you know, I don't know what the fuck happened to them when they were a kid, but it's just a gross cycle. And I
Yeah.
don't agree with what Michael Jackson did, but I can sit there and be like, okay, that makes sense. Why? I don't have to agree with it. Just because I understand something doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with it.
Well, I
If
think
you
it's
want
really
to know, Mhm.
it's really interesting to look at that angle, and that kind of actually is a perfect segue into the, you know, the rest of our discussion too, and
Yeah.
the influences that we see and that we have, and understanding motivations of the characters. To me, the most powerful villains that you have are these characters, are, you know, are ones whose motivations you understand. Killmonger in Black Panther. However, if do or do not like the movie, he's set up very well as a sympathetic villain, someone who.
Yeah.
You understand exactly why he's become the person he's become. It doesn't excuse what he's done, and he still has to pay for it. Thanos, another great example. Thanos is the protagonist of Infinity War. He's.
I agree with that. I was actually kind of rooting for Thanos. I'm like, please kick their butts. Like,
He's the most morally consistent one in that movie, you know, and it's interesting because it's important to look at when you take your villains, though, and that's what we've come to. Our world has gotten more black and white.
Yeah.
We don't accept shades of gray in our villains anymore, or in our heroes. And one, you can't have one without the other too. So you cannot flatten your villains, make them three-dimensional, remove any. Basically, it's this idea that we have to remove any favorable traits from our villains, because if there's anything favorable reflected in that, well, that becomes then a negative commentary on anybody in the real world who possesses those favorable traits, and we might want to protect their feelings, because apparently protecting Fifi's is, you know, the end all and be all.
Lord.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I see in that. And just to roll it around.
Yeah.
Kelly, anything you wanted to add in on that, or any other of the big changes and shifts in the intelligence with which we approach character development in the media? Because that really is sort of the crux, the thesis that we're getting into tonight is there's a lot more psychology and thought behind developing characters and understanding the effects they have on their audiences than just writing and letting it go. So, Kelly, your thoughts, preliminary thoughts.
There is such a lack right now, especially in mainstream Hollywood, and I'm starting to see Hollywood as just another corporate tentacle at this point. I don't really see it as anything creative or inherently artistic anymore. I don't really see passion projects anymore. It's really just big, whatever's the most marketable and whatever serves the populace in the way that kind of strokes egos more than anything else. And like you said, protects feelings, because that's marketable now. And it's artificially elevating characters for the sake of representing something that they think has previously been lacking, which at its core is something nice to want to represent people that have historically been oppressed or repressed, but it's losing all real tangibility and emotional grounding in the way that it's being done. So it's just a mess altogether, and it's really disappointing. And back to what SweetP was saying about like shadow work and like Carl Jung's understanding of the human shadow. I do believe that we both have the dark and the light, all of us together, and there's a line that defines those things. And if we don't learn to integrate that shadow in a healthy way, we're just going to basically be creating our own reality based on repressing that. And I don't know, there's a lot going on now that's really strange and alarming, and it's sad to see the direction it's going in, because obviously we all love film, we all love novels, good writing, well-written characters that have real authentic feeling and motivation, and there just seems to be an utter lack of that happening recently, and it seems to be more and more so.
One thing that I find really interesting, it just happens that, you know, we're coming up on award season, Academy Awards got pushed back and all that shit. So normally we would have had all of the nominations, all the shit, all that stuff out already by this point. It's sort of just happening. Richard Chu happens to be on the international submissions panel and has been talking to me a little about some of the films that have come in, and it's really great and crazy that, you know, the quality of films that are being made and coming in from around the world that are full of innovation, that are full and partially, and the thing is, the weird thing is the same institution that's responsible for sucking the creativity out is the same institution responsible for breathing life in other areas, right? Because the Academy, since the big hubbub, you know, the big kerfuffle and pushback, since Sarah Compton got snubbed at the awards and all that. Apparently, it's very interesting things that I'm learning. That this pushback against, you know, this sudden shift only happened then. Prior to that, the Academy didn't give a rat's ass. They were not doing anything to, you know, diversify things or get on board with this programming. And then all of a sudden, that big public outcry was enough to flip the switch for them. But and at this whole time, you know, for these whole past several years and years and years, they have been expanding internationally as well, opening up more avenues. And one of the good programs they've done in this recent 5-year push for diversity, et cetera, has been doing that, has been making it easier for international filmmakers, you know, the voices that they are claiming they want to promote. It is becoming easier at that entry level to get those feet in the door, from what it sounds like, which is great and what you want.
Yeah.
But on the other side of things, what's being funneled out of the top is still the same, you know? So somewhere in here, and this kind of also goes back into a lot of the way you see it in the rest of the world, somewhere in there's something's breaking down. There are good people who want to make movies, who are working independently, who are working at the entry level in the industry, wherever it is, out there trying to make movies. And the narrative all supports that happening. And somewhere in the food chain, the flip gets switched and selfishness takes over. Exactly like you said, SweetP. You know, no matter what your intentions are, at a certain point, that power corrupts. Nobody's above that. And people realize, if I now allow inclusivity in this even playing field, that's really what it is people realize, if we level the playing field, my job's no longer protected. I no longer have immunity. Somebody else can come along and do my job better and take it. And rather than that being the impetus for them to work harder and just do their job to a higher level, they want to get lazy and get greedy and get scared and try to just shut down anyone else threatening them, which is the opposite of how progress happens.
Yeah.
Interesting that you say that, because the idea of representation to me is an inherently shallow idea. And I'll tell you why I think that. Because, you know, whether or not you want to call it good representation or bad representation, it comes from the lens of, I need to add this person in just to make them feel included, just, you know, in spite of making a well-rounded character. So the idea of good representation to me is not good at all, because what it really does is it separates those types of people, the minorities, if you will, into another box. It completely categorizes them as separate from everybody else. And I don't agree with that. I've never agreed with that. The things that I think that make a great character, a well-rounded character, are one, not just relatability, but believability and admiration. Because when we believe in something, we find that something that's admirable in somebody, we can latch onto that, because you could have everything in common with somebody and still not like them as a person. You know, I've noticed that. You know, I've met people that I've had a lot of things in common with, and I don't like who they are as people, and so I choose not to be around them. But you know, a good example of this is Mike Hanlon from the book It. Now, Mike Hanlon is my favorite character, pretty much, of any book I've ever read. I love Mike Hanlon.
The librarian?
And he's a librarian. He's a Black librarian. And
I like Mike.
I have absolutely nothing in common with Mike. Like, absolutely nothing in common with Mike. I did not grow up in the mid to late 50s to early 60s. I did not experience that type of racism. And I also never met a shape-shifting monster from the Macroverse. So, but what made me like him the most was the fact that it was his integrity, his wisdom, his intelligence, his humanness, the fact that he was willing to stay behind and be the watchman in a town that is so sick and rotted with people who hate him and who hated him at one point in his life, but he stayed behind, and that sacrifice, and that is admirable to me. And that's why I like him above everyone else, say Bill, who's the writer and who's also white. So I don't really believe this idea of like, oh, we're going to relate to people who we look like, because this is not the case, or admire somebody that doesn't look like us or that looks like us. It's just, you know, so it's like, I don't, because when you can believe something, I think that's when you can start, it becomes a more well-rounded character versus like, let me just take a cardboard cutout and tack on adjectives to see which one lands.
Yeah,
I agree. And what you said about that too, about the admirable qualities, things you can admire in a character. Interesting thing happened on a show that Jeff and I are watching called The Rookie, which I talk about all the time. ABC show, classic cop drama, elevated only by the fact that their lead is Nathan Fillion, who's usually a step above what, you know, the caliber of actor you usually get for a cop drama.
Yeah,
that's
true.
But it was really good. So I started watching the show and I was surprised at how great it was. I mean, I usually think of a cop drama as something I watch to fill the time that I get marginally invested in. And I found myself laughing with the characters, crying with them, getting my heart racing in moments and stuff like that. And then, you know, coronavirus hiatus, whatever, the show comes back. I was thrilled to see that coronavirus does not exist in this reality. But apparently wokeness does all of a sudden, because it was like a switch had been flipped. And the show that was diverse from the get-go. Your core cast, you know, yeah, Nathan Fillion's a white guy, sure, but his training officer is a black woman, and there's only one other white guy in the core cast. His rookie is an Asian chick. The other training officer is a Latino woman, and her rookie is a gay black dude. And all this shit makes sense because it's in Mid-Wilshire, fucking in Los Angeles, where you're gonna find all these people mixing and melting together. And it was all handled very logically like that. It was never, no one drew attention to it. But it handled all those things. It handled police brutality situations. It handled race situations with the police. It handled different, hate crimes and treatments of different types of people. And it handled it all very gracefully. And then, like I said, flip, all of a sudden, woke land all day long. And it was really interesting, the two routes they went. So, but the Nathan Fillion's new training officer, also still a black woman, suddenly became the woke police, suddenly became the one who has to tell him why everything he does is wrong because he's black and or white and evil and all this stuff. And even though he's demonstrated consistently that he's the most selfless character throughout the entire show and has no qualms about putting himself in harm's way, he's the first one to risk immediate death to save complete strangers that he's never met before. No, he's the evil white man now. We have to shit all over him and give him this horrible mother and this horrible plot line and all this stuff. And but the weird thing was they leaned woke there, and they leaned woke with this young black cop too. His training officer went off to become a detective and got replaced by super racist cop, which didn't, in spite of being very on the nose for the world, wasn't the part that felt that wrong, because it sort of tracked with the way the show handled everything. And so it's really interesting then going and reading and finding out not really anything about this other female actress who played Harper's T.O. or Nolan's T.O., Nathan Fillion's character's T.O., but this young black actor, reading a statement from him where he went to the directors during the off season after all this shit had happened in 2020. And he said, I cannot in good conscience be on a cop show as a black man that does not address these things happening in the world. And he said, I understand completely if you need to write out or recast my character. And that's how he brought it to the show. And the showrunner said, absolutely not. We will work with you and figure out how to write this in. And because of that, I think there's an earnestness and an honest. And the thing is, you talk about the admirability. It is not admirable to me. I do not find it admirable in any way whatsoever to hear that an actor walked up to production and demanded that they change the writing of a story to include all this wokeness and blah and all this shit. That is not admirable whatsoever.
It sounds very manipulative, is what it sounds like. And it's false admiration.
But it's a completely different story in this case to go to production and say, this is where my conscience is. I'm not asking you to change a thing. I'm 100% willing to walk off this project if it doesn't work with you guys. And so this week, again, like another switch, ratings had plummeted, by the way. They lost like 1 million in viewers and ratings since this new season had come out. Like another switch, all of a sudden, bad white man, you can't do anything right. Now these two get along again. Now she supports him again. And the way they went to deal with the racist cop, the black cop set himself up, let the other guy set him up to get the shit beaten out of him, to get him put into prison to the point where he almost died, just to catch on camera the racist guy letting it happen and not backing him up. And that, I was like, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with social justice narratives. I don't have a problem addressing these things. But this, showing a character who is willing to risk his life to make the changes that need to be changed, risk his career, because first he's risking his career by trying to rat out this officer. Then he's risking his life by putting it on the line to prove he's a bad cop. Mm-hmm. And that I have no problem with. Because if you want to show me somebody who believes in their principles so much, and to me, I love the parallel. The actor is willing to risk his career for his principles, and the character in the show is willing to risk his life for his principles. If you're going to show me that, I have no problem with that, because that is somebody who actually has real principles and is willing to stick to them and walk the walk.
Right. And I agree with that completely. I don't mind some social justice narratives. Like a good example of this is A Time to Kill with Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson. I love that film. It's one of Joel Schumacher's better films, and people like to make fun of Joel Schumacher all the time, but he's brought us some great films before. I do like the movie Flatliners.
Honestly, his one stinker is Batman and Robin, and outside of that, he made mediocre to great films.
Oh my God, I love The Lost Boys, like for life. Yeah. That's such a
Lost
great
Boys is
film.
classic. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. People want to shit on all of them for one bad movie. Everything else was either good or great. So
yeah.
But the whole thing
is like, he's so good with atmosphere. He gets that unsettling atmosphere right, and he's good with like having the gritty characters where you know something is going on underneath that they're not sharing, but it's there. You feel it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets humanity. I think
humanity's really good.
I think
that's the thing too, is like you have to be honest. You can't just sit here and have a one-sided narrative and then paint every other villain as like this one-dimensional, just an obstacle for the hero to like basically bowling pins for the hero to knock down. It's like, no, you need to have, if you want an honest conversation about racial tensions or inequality in some way, you have to give, I think Nick Pizzolatto once said, if you're worth a damn as a writer, then you can write any character with empathy and sympathy. You just can. And it's true. I mean, the character
absolutely true. Is absolutely true. And I was going to say, to your point, I just had, even Batman Forever. The villains in Batman Forever have more rich and developed backstories than 90% of villains in superhero movies today.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the motivation? Way stronger motivations than the Pedro Pascal and Wonder Woman. I couldn't make sense of it. I'm like, you want to do all this stuff to get all this power to provide a life for your kid who you now don't have time for the second you get any of this power. But then at the end of the day, this kid you've neglected for this entire movie is now the entire reason you're going to give this up. Okay, that tracks not at all. As opposed to like the Riddler, disgruntled employee who feels completely unappreciated is going to become completely obsessed with one-upping and taking down Bruce Wayne. Yeah, that makes 1,000% sense. Harvey Dent, who feels like Batman failed to save him, has sworn this obsessive revenge on Batman. Yeah, that fucking tracks. But rando guy who desperately wants all this shit that can totally get on his own, but didn't because he's just bad at business, and I'm supposed to feel bad for you? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it just makes it very like, it's very juvenile. And what's crazy is like, even juvenile, like there used to, back in the day when teen fiction used to be great, when it used to be, I mean, I don't mind like some fun stuff. I believe that there's like a place for fun, simple, not necessarily meaningful stuff. I think there's a place for that. But my main point of contention is that everything is starting to become that way, where it's like, the heroes will always be good. There is no real moral conflict going on within them. And I'm going to bring it up, but Abby from The Last of Us Part 2, okay, that the fact that she straight up murders him, she bludgeons him to death, and after the fact you see her, and the game constantly tries to make you like her. That they try to add depth and character to her, but it's like, no, it's like, to me, when you do something like that and then essentially try to portray them as a good person would feel immense confliction about that, immensely conflicted about that. And it goes out of their way to just sort of manipulate the audience into thinking, oh, well, like, she, Joel did a bad thing. It's like, no, Joel did a very human thing that people don't necessarily agree with, or some people do. It's very human. It's very, like, some people go one way. It created this dichotomy, people just talking about it. But then with this is just outright division, outright,
Well, I
like,
think,
hatred.
I mean, Cobra Kai, I think really highlights that. I still haven't seen it yet, but I am aware, that it sort of reverses the expectations you're given on Johnny and Danny, based on the film. And it's a great example of how, you classic bad guy that we think of for forever becomes the misunderstood hero. If you look at it from his side of things, another great example, even real effing life. There was that story. I think HBO, the documentary, one of the streaming sites has a Beyond or Beware the Slender Man documentary up that covers the two girls who tried to murder their friend because Slender Man told them to. And it's a really deep look at these two kids in their lives. And one girl is schizophrenic and the other one is very troubled, and you feel a lot of sympathy for them. You really do. And I found myself, going through this movie kind of feeling like the one girl who was a little less responsible, like kind of hoping she got off a little easier because she didn't not wanting her life to be ruined in this. And then right at the end, it brings you back to the other girl, the victim, and her experience and all that. And you kind of have that course correction. You're like, oh, no, like, fuck those other girls. Like, they knew what they were doing. Like, yeah, it sucks. I feel bad for them that they didn't really have, they weren't really playing with a full deck of hands, but at the same time, they had enough in the deck to know that stabbing your fucking friend to death in the woods was wrong. But again, just when you hear the story, there are people in my life that were in my life for years and years and years, that I always thought of one way, and when I then sort of, if something happened or whatever, we drifted apart, I would find out later or sometimes shortly thereafter that a lot of other people in my life did not see the good in them that I saw, that in some cases, all of a sudden realizing that this friend did this horrible thing was me sort of waking up and realizing they've been the same way the whole time, and that perspective shift happens. It just sometimes depends how close or far or what direction you're looking at. And that's why this business of absolution is so dangerous. Like, I always say to everyone, the second that you start an argument so 1000% convinced that you're right, just remember that the person arguing against you is equally convinced that they're right. And if you guys want to just both come at it from that place, well, have fun, but that ain't getting
just
very
beating
far.
a dead horse, that's not going to get anywhere. That's why I don't like, I don't like people who are intentionally impertinent. I feel like, this whole, like, I don't have any sympathy for the other side of the coin. And to be fair, it's very hard to sympathize with people who are being completely irrational. Like, you can't rationalize irrationality. You can't. It's like beating a dead horse. That's why I choose not to participate in it. But I mean, if you go in there and you start spouting off shit, like, which is going to get you flack, I mean, I don't feel that bad for you. I'm like, you freaking made this bed, now lie in it.
Exactly.
And I agree with that.
Yeah. That is something I find today. All our people just don't want to be accountable for their own actions, for their own behaviors. I'm going to pull up, read a couple super chats, but then I had a question that I wanted Kelly's take on.
Yes.
Go before we go home. There we are. If there are space lasers, I'm way more inclined to believe the Vatican has them. That does make more sense. I mean, at least it's a central place from which they can operate, so it's not like you have I guess we have Israel. We do kind of have a country. So, but
yeah, that's surrounded by,
to be fair, I'm pretty sure Israel
kill them.
I'm pretty sure Israel's military is slightly more likely to actually have access to space laser technology than the Vatican. Although I do think the Vatican is more likely to use space lasers offensively than generally speaking, when you are surrounded entirely by enemies, you usually try to just not get blown up. Jury Nitpicker says, look up feral children raised by animals. Very sad. That sounds sad. Oh, what's happening over there? Noise is happening. Greg Kirby says, Jesse, Joel's best movie is DCCAB. What?
I'm not sure what that means. I didn't play the game. I just understand the story to the fact that the game's extremely manipulative. I
think he might mean Joel Schumacher. I think this was an older one. I think this was still Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesse,
Yeah.
Joel's best movie is DC Cab. I'm just like, when I think of Joel, I thought of like Joel Miller. I think that's his last name from The Last of Us. And it's like,
I'm like DC, like DC Cab, duh. Yeah, obviously. I'm like, oh yeah, DC Cab. I still haven't seen that one. But anyone else seen it?
I haven't seen it.
I don't even know what it is.
I don't know what it is either.
No,
it's an older one. It was AKA Street Fleet '83. He directed and wrote it. Yeah, it was his second movie directing, and the first time he both wrote and directed a feature film, and then went on to do St. Elmo's Fire to great acclaims the next year. So there you go. People don't realize quite there's some pretty impressive ones in there. Like I said, most of these are, very few of them are regarded as outright bad, except for Batman and Robin. So.
Yeah, but I can sit there and watch Batman and Robin and still have a good time, even if it's so bad. Like I can sit there and laugh and be like, "Oh, this is so bad. It's great."
It is so good bad. It is. I'm just agreeing with you. That's all. The question before it leaves my mind though. Kelly, when you look at movies today, big mainstream movies reaching big audiences and whatnot. And so, we talk about women, talking about women and stuff because, not because we only want to talk about women, but we do have a certain perspective, possessing the same parts as these characters. With this flattening out, this black and whiting, this two-dimensionalifying of characters, what's the biggest detriment, Kelly, that you see in the effect it has on the audience?
It's not giving us anything first of all, it's not relatable. Not that relatability is everything, but when you take away the relatability, you're undermining your audience because you're not giving them anything to latch onto in a real sense. If anything, you're applying traits to these empowered female characters that are actually just inherently toxically masculine traits. You're just making them physically stronger and badass. But then you're taking away, I do believe that there's power in being in feminine. I think there's beauty in being feminine. I think there's strength in being feminine, and that there are inherently feminine traits that are strong and stand up on their own. And to just slap a bunch of like culturally preconceived traits that are considered to be masculine onto a female character is undermining not only that character, but undermining your entire audience and an entire gender on its own. So if you want to empower women by creating these strong female characters, maybe you should give them some strong female traits that are actually legitimately strong. Because I grew up seeing Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor,
yes,
Leia Organa, and they're all strong because they're feminine, not because they're not like women.
Yeah.
And now we have all these women that are being propped up with all these strong traits in quotations. But then you're delegitimizing men, and you're actually tearing down male characters and making them seem substandard just to artificially elevate females. And it's just reflecting what I think. Of course, women historically have been oppressed. That's a real thing. And of course, there's still misogyny still exists. It's still there. But if anything, I think it's creating a bigger divide instead of giving us the empowerment that women really need and want. It's artificially inflating that empowerment, and it's not giving these young girls anything legitimate to look up to. It's just, if anything, it's skewing reality.
And you got to wonder about the message it sends when you're telling women, in the same message, you're telling them men are evil and terrible and inherently bad, and all their traits are inherently bad, but then you're designing women to try to make them be more like men.
Right.
you are tearing down everything that's inherently female, you know. So you're saying, oh, women are these great, wonderful things, but then also you're saying women are great and wonderful and strong and powerful and don't need no help, but yet you can't ever show them be strong and powerful without tearing down the men around them. You know, show them, you don't ever show us beating them in a foot race, you know, head to head. You show us, cheating to win or getting disqualified. Like that's
and
that's
getting rewarded too.
Exactly. The message is you don't get ahead by working to get ahead. You get ahead by disqualifying the competition.
Right.
And to me, I always thought one of the most powerful examples of feminism for girls, for my generation, our generation, was Mulan. I go to this one over and over again because it really hits it on more layers than you'd expect. Now, this one spoke to me on a lot of levels because I was a tomboy. I was the girl who rejected traditionally girly things and wanted to be, more boyish. Now, there's also a really beautiful simplicity in Mulan that came out in 1998. And Mulan wanted to cut her hair short and tie it up to go to the army and become a boy so she could protect her dad from dying. No one was fucking talking about how she's genderqueer or non-binary or trans or this or that. She did what women have done for millennia. When a woman could not do something a man could do, she pretended to be a man to get it done. This has nothing to do with gender identity or this or that, or the other. And here's the thing too, that the reverse, like you said, Jedi Bunny, is, not realizing the messages you're sending. When you tie that in together too, every single time a woman dresses up as a man for some reason, or wears tomboy clothes or boyish clothes or whatever, for some reason, oh, now she's gay and she's this and she's that and she's whatever, you are hurting those people by putting things on them, by othering them further, by, oh, diversity and inclusion, great. So why are you trying to put all these labels that force somebody out of a box when they haven't even been thinking about, they're talking about that. They just fucking want to cut their hair short. And now you're deciding their future for them. And the flip of that also is, why do the people who want to live a gender non-conforming life or a trans life or whatever life have to be fucking thrust into every conversation the second a woman cuts her hair short? It's not fair to them either.
Yeah.
It's not fair to people in minority groups who don't want to be the poster children for these movements, and who get stuck between a rock and a hard place because they take hatred from one side who assumes that they're going to act like these woke crazy whatevers, and then they take hatred from the woke crazy whatevers for not being the right kind of woke crazy whatever version of whatever identity they are. So it's the people that you're running around trying to help are actually getting shat upon. But I digress.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I was going to add to that just a little bit. I'll try to keep it brief, but what she was saying was about like what this sort of intentionally does. It's not just the relatability, it's the fact that it's not authentic. It doesn't feel real. It's like, I can't do that. I can't freaking shoot lasers out my ass and my eyes and like fly. I can't do any of that. It's like, but the thing is, like, that bothers me because, like, while Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley are strong, they're both flawed people. They're a believable woman. Like, Ellen could be competent and strong in tense situations, and then she could also be motherly whenever Newt came around, and that, people are drawn to that. A motherly instinct is not an inherently bad thing. I think people want to write off demure girls or girls who are not necessarily outspoken or extroverted in some sentences. It's like, and it bothers me. It's like, there's more. There's not just one way to be a female. And you're right about that, Jesse. It's like this: as soon as a girl cuts her hair short, it automatically has to mean something.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. It's like, well, why? Like, I used to have short hair too. I cut
Me
my hair. I had a buzz cut. Like, I had a buzz cut for a long time because I wanted the pixie cut. But like the barber just did not have the talent, so I ended up with a crew cut instead, and I looked like a dyke.
I
Like,
had
a crew cut growing up. I had a crew cut. I actually pretended to be a boy for over a year, and I told everyone my name was Patrick, and everyone believed me. I would yell at my parents when they would tell people that this is Kelly, our daughter. I'd say, no, my name is Patrick, and I'm a boy.
It's got to be like a little contrarian. I was a little contrarian shit. I'm still a contrarian.
I had a phase where I peed standing up, so
I tried, but it never worked so well.
Here's the thing now. if we were this age, if we were at that age now with certain types of parents, they might be taking us to child psychologists and having us evaluated for whether or not we're trans. And we might have spent the rest of our fucking childhood pretending to be boys when in point of fact, we had a fucking phase. I had an older brother. I probably just wanted to be like him half the time. As a kid, that's just natural. You see boys do cool things that girls don't get to do and you want to do it, and vice versa. Not every boy who raids his mother's wardrobe ends up being gay. Some of them do. Some of the ones who dance around in heels do end up being gay. Some of them end up becoming trans. Some of them end up growing out of it and becoming nuclear physicists.
Some of it has to do with the fact that it's not necessarily the way it looks. It has to do more with the way it sounds or the way it feels against their hands. They might just like the texture of it or the way it sounds. Like I remember me and my cousin Landon would put on his mother's high heels and clamp around the room. We used to call high heels docks because they make that loud noise against, and we loved the way that sounded. And, I wasn't infatuated with dolls or anything like that or girly stuff when I was a kid. I was a very active, imaginative, and I was, child. I was more invested and enamored with like inanimate objects or stuffed animals or trucks or things like that I found aesthetically pleasing to me, not because it was a boy's toy, because I just liked the way it looked. I remember that. And I think a lot of people want to confuse that with like, oh, they're going, it doesn't matter what the toy is. It just depends on what they're using it for. That the context matters. Whether we like it, whether they like it or not. The people that try to say that men and women are the same, it's bullshit. We're very different. There's a lot of science behind it.
There wouldn't be different fucking words for what we are if we were the same goddamn thing. Case in point. Grandma, I just want to clarify. I wasn't talking about nuclear physicists, the job. I was talking about nuclear physicists, the sexual identity. So at that point, no, you could not be gay. Identity. You could not also be gay and a nuclear physicist. Those are mutually exclusive identities. But yes, you're right. A gay man could be a nuclear physicist, the profession. That's accurate.
Yeah.
This is a great point. Will Gentry, equally someone like Black Widow or Katniss Everdeen, uses their skills, talents, and attributes to be formidable and respected fighters. Let's talk about Katniss for a second, because she's a really great and interesting example, especially because there really are two Katnisses. There's movie Katniss and there's book Katniss. Now, have you guys read the books?
I actually have not read Hunger Games. I at that point, I just kind of avoided it, but okay. I know you can go ahead and just tell me what's going on. I pretty much can probably gather an opinion on it just from what you've told me.
And Kelly, have you seen the films at all?
Okay. I've only seen I want to say the first two, maybe.
So what you may or may not know about this book series, actually, Susan Collins, the author, the thesis she set out to explore while writing this book was the psychological effects of warfare on children. So already that adds a lot of layer and nuance to this book. That not knowing that takes away, and it's one of those things where it's like whenever I discuss this series, I want to drop that in there right from the get-go, because it really informs, to me, everything that this story is about. And when you look at it through that lens, it changes the meaning and does a very good job of achieving that thesis. And actually, even by that token, the films, which severely drop off in quality as they go, still achieve that story. And so Katniss is fascinating because she's a really fascinating character. It's not unlike Offred in Handmaid's Tale, which I think that actress they just love as somebody. There's these actresses that they do this really well.
I think Elizabeth Moss is ugly.
She is a very ugly. But here's what
weird, huh?
Here's what she does well, though. It's these characters that have strength in their powerlessness.
Ooh, yes, Jesse.
Good.
That's true.
That's actually really good. I like that.
True.
And so that's Katniss in the Hunger Games as well, who she's stuck in the poor district. She has no agency. The only thing she can do is try to give her life to protect her sisters. And then the only thing she can try to do is protect the one person who once protected her. All the psychologically really tracks when you watch it, and people make fun of the whole relationship with Peeta, and he's a goofy character, and Josh Hutcherson does not particularly impress me. But when you go into the books, okay, the psychology here is she's this dirt poor family, and once he gave her a loaf of bread, and it was the reason that she and her sister ate that night. And you know, and so that's why she feels so compelled to look after him in the game, because he's this physically weaker guy that he can't protect himself, but she's the hunter for the family, so she can. And then when you move on in the stories, now her powerlessness comes from being this political figurehead who wants to tear down the system and is being coddled by people who also want to help do that, but can't do that. So she's always fighting against being a pawn in a game while still working to have strength and agency. She never rolls over. She never goes along with something if it goes against her gut. She actually compromises her, you know, what her overall goals should be for her gut on multiple occasions, while also dealing with the paralyzing PTSD that comes from being in a fucking battle royale.
Yeah.
And it's movies like that, or something like Handmaid's Tale, that really, and I'll fight you on this, Greg Kirby, Hunger Games is not woke. It's not kind of woke at all. Woke material cannot show women in distress. That is a key thing that woke material cannot do. It cannot show women in true distress.
Just because it's female-led doesn't mean it's woke. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Like, there's different types of narratives, but I understand exactly what you're talking about, Jesse, because have you ever seen Alias Grace? It's the woman who did Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood, who shares my birthday, by the way. She did Alias Grace, and they made that into a Netflix show, and it's really, really, really good. And it's also about a female character who is suffering from amnesia. She was in prison, some murder, stuff like that, but it's really good. And it also shows that. And another example of a good female character that, like, not being powerful in your helplessness in some way. Sidney Prescott from Scream, the Scream series, is a good example of that. I love Sidney Prescott. She's never plays the victim. She at moments can and is a victim because she's being attacked and stalked, but she never lets it, like, become her. Like, that's not who she is. She's there to survive.
What
and
I will sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to add on to that. Is women in horror films in general, that is a strong trope of women in horror films, the survivor. And it's typically, I find them annoying as shit in the beginning of the movies, because it's always, that's a classic trope. You can see it in The Hitcher does it. Fucking so many movies do this, where the woman is the victim in the beginning, the most helpless. With the movie Frozen's a great film. Same thing. The woman is the most helpless one in the beginning. She's the most ill-equipped to survive. But when push comes to shove, she nuts up, and she's the one who does what needs to be done and makes it through. She fucking runs screaming half the time. She makes dumbass decisions that probably gets her boyfriend killed somewhere in the beginning of the movie. But when push comes to shove, she nuts up. She fucking grows, and she finishes that movie not a whining simp, but a total fucking badass who probably just took out the main bad guy.
Frozen, is that the one where they're hanging from
the ski lift? Yep.
Oh my gosh, that movie. I had me, and when that guy got eaten by wolves, that was very disturbing. I felt that in my stomach. I was like, I don't know if I can watch this, because that to me is like a primal fear of mine, is to be eaten alive.
That image of him, like, skating off into the dark on one of the skis with the wolves going after him stays with me. That's the image that stays with me from that movie.
I thought you guys were talking about the Pixar or Disney.
No, this is a great movie. It's a guy, his buddy, and his girlfriend who go night skiing and stay on the lift past closing and get stuck on it, and have to try to figure out how to get down, because it's
you guys recommend it?
I would recommend it.
Let me write it down. Write it down.
Loves it too. We have both seen it separate from each other, and we're actually been meaning to rewatch it.
It's called Frozen, though?
It's called Frozen, yeah. It's a Adam Green film. Yeah. I think that's Adam Green. Have you ever seen Digging Up the Marrow? That he did that documentary thing?
No.
It's so funny. I love it. Like, it's like a documentary he made himself about this weirdo who claims that he's found, like, real monsters. And, like, it just kind of takes you on these twists and turns of weird ideas. And the guy that says he's claimed to see all these monsters, it gives them these weird names, like, oh, I'm going to call him Little Bigfoot or Brella because she looks like an umbrella. Get it? It's actually really good. And I don't know what the actor's name is. He's a horror movie icon, not like Robert Englund or anything like that, but he's like good for like a side character or something. Very distinct face. I can't remember his name right now, but he's in it. But I'm so glad that another great example I would say of a female protagonist is not just not just Ellen Ripley, but Amanda Ripley from Alien Isolation.
Yes.
And
Sorry,
I
I
love
got it because I wanted to see if Jeff had seen that documentary that you mentioned, because he's a big Adam Green fan. So we're gonna take a look at it now.
It's on Hulu. If y'all have, I
Oh yeah, we
believe
have
it's
Hulu.
still on Hulu.
For
if
sure.
not,
Tell me the name one more time so I don't forget it.
Digging Up the Marrow.
Digging
up the marrow.
The marrow.
Digging Up the Marrow.
It's just a fun film to watch. I like Adam Green, and
Yeah,
he's like a lesser version of like Eli Roth, but he's not as gross as Eli Roth. Like Eli Roth films are like, man, dude, like,
why?
chill on the gore.
Yeah, they're a little gratuitous for me, for my taste.
Greg Kirby says Adam Family 2, Camp tried to re-ed Wed and Pug. Actually, one of my favorite movies was But I'm a Cheerleader.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie.
Great fucking movie.
I was a straight. I identify as a lesbian, dude. I don't blame you for that.
That's okay, Dre Nippicker. I identify as a misogynistic gay man living happily in a woman's body.
I just exist as Montana because there's no one else like me in this world, and I'm just Montana. Or SweetP or Gallnith, whichever. It's the same person.
And that's what I love. Like, that's the whole thing. It's the same people who are like, diversity, inclusivity are the number one people who want to seek to label. They want to put a label on you. That's my rule of thumb. SweetP, when you talk about common sense and not wanting to engage with people who are being irrational, if you put labels on me, we're done with this conversation, because it means you don't want to have a conversation. It means you've already decided who I am. You put me in a box with other people so that you can conveniently shorthand how I feel about everything based on a few, moral notes here and there. And that's just bullshit. That's not how people operate. So I love that you said that to me, because exactly, I'm me. I'm me.
You're Jesse fucking Milestone.
Exactly. I should actually change my avatar.
You're Kelly.
Again.
Kelly the Jedi, and I love you. I just like, you're so sweet and calm, and I like that about you. And you bring such a great, like, just a nice, calm, almost maternal feeling, a vibe to the, like, I don't know. I vibe well with it. I really like it. That's why you love Alien, and I love Alien, and you love Mike Flanagan, and I love Mike Flanagan.
I do. We have a lot in common. We've discussed our likes, and I like your vibe too. I like our vibe.
Well,
I like this whole trio, this triad.
Me too. I'm digging it.
This is good.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with what you're saying. We live in an era of labels. Even people who say that they're not with the woke folk, they have labels too, for like women or
hell, woke is a label. I mean,
woke is a label.
Woke is a label.
Exactly. Soy boy, women, like it's all becoming like all
it's equally reductive.
It's reductive, exactly.
It's reductive. It's not getting us anywhere. It's like, yeah, sure, you can make fun of these people, but for how long? Because, this whole idea of like, well, facts don't care about your feelings. Duh. But clearly the feelings don't care about your facts. So you have to, if you really want to reach people, it's all about your intention to me. Like, if you want to try and reach, some people just can't be reached. They just can't be. And you can't beat yourself over the head for that. And you can't keep beating a dead horse.
Nope.
My mom taught me that, and I believe that firmly. But there's nothing wrong with standing up for your principles or the things that you believe in. There's a difference.
Goddamn right.
And so for me, the women, the soy boy, it's like, for what reason? Because of the way they look, or because they're saying something that you don't necessarily agree with, or you're on high alert watching something that's like quote unquote woke. It's like, to me, the scope for what is like Karen's another one too, which what used to be just an entitled person, now it's just specifically geared towards like women who are, I guess, of a strong opinion, who say something and kind of talk down the milk, which is annoying. It can be, but it's like, it could be just a character flaw.
So here's my polarizing take on the wokeness and accusing things of wokeness and whatnot, right? And this is a polarizing take, and people are going to probably get their panties in a wad and probably cry and yell about how I'm an asshole and wrong in the chat. Go back to The Mandalorian season 2. Go back to the Bo-Katan episode, right? If you like, and hear the explanation before you get your panties in a wad. But here's the thing: if you liked that episode, right, then you have demonstrated the point that wokeness is fine with you as long as it's packaged in characters in a story that you like. Therefore, you no longer have the ground to stand on to complain about these things, right?
Yeah.
Because Here's the thing: the Mandalorian, you can explain it away all you want with Bo-Katan and the EU and or the the Clone Wars and Rebels and this and that. But here's the thing: the Mandalorian is a standalone film, and the vast majority of people who watch that episode, myself included, have no context for Bo-Katan before seeing it. So what we saw was a random woman come out of nowhere with very little introduction, show up and literally tell the main character, who's a man, why everything that he was doing, not just everything he was doing, everything he believed about his entire way, the whole "this is the way" shit from season 1, that was wrong. That way was wrong. She showed up to let him know the strong, powerful woman that we have no context for shows up to let the man know why he's been doing it wrong the whole time. And here's the thing: if you like that episode, that's fine. I'm not telling you not to like it. I'm just pointing out that everybody wants to compromise their principles. Everybody is willing to compromise their principles for their fifis.
For the
which is also why fuck you anyone now who says I'm over the facts don't care about your fifis thing, because 90% of the people that I now run into saying that are fucking people who are using their fifis to justify some bullshit logic.
That's
it's like,
right.
dude, it goes both ways, asshole. So end of the day, I mean, bottom line is always stop pointing fucking fingers when the same fingers point at you. But the whole point is that if you like the episode, that's great, like it. But stop bitching about wokeness fucking everywhere when you've already demonstrated that you don't give a shit about wokeness as long as you like the thing. Which makes you, by the way, just like everyone you're railing against, because they're the exact same way, where everything is fucking end all be all, die on the clock, until you like it, or until it's one of your own, or until it's you doing it, and then it's totally fucking fine. There'll be every justification and reason why it is. Dion over on World Class Bullshitters always says it: if you believe something, believe it 100% of the time.
Yeah, I respect you.
Time for people who don't do that.
It's like, it's like don't sit here like it's okay if you have a change, because I believe everyone has a right to change, but when you are constantly going back and forth and making exceptions for the same thing just because it's a character you like and are biased towards, that just makes you a hypocrite, and everything you say is completely incongruent with your philosophy that you've adhered to and what you've spouted out and say that.
Sean, I'm not suggesting hypocrisy is okay. I'm suggesting hypocrisy is okay if you own the fact that you're a fucking hypocrite. If you want to walk around and be like, yeah, I'm a fucking hypocrite, then fine, be a hypocrite. Like some things, hate identical things, and hold people to the fire who do or don't like the things you do. Be wildly hypocritic, but you know what? Be a hypocrite. But if you go wake up every morning and go, I'm a fucking capricious hypocrite, and I'm going to walk through the day, I'm living on my whims and just own it, good for fucking you. I'm probably not going to be your friend, but you have every right to be the kind of person you want to be. I just have a problem with hypocrites who want to yell and scream at everyone else for their hypocrisy and this, that, and the other, when absolutely refusing to acknowledge that the same behaviors are manifesting themselves. It is not my place to tell anybody how to be, good or bad. If you want to be a raging asshole, by all means. If you want to be a criminal, I highly recommend against it, but I don't have the right to stop you. It is your life to do with or ruin as you please. But, I can let you know what kind of people I think are legit or not. And if you're one of the people I think kind of sucks, we're probably not going to be friends.
It's like people who kind of like deny these sort of, because they have the quote unquote right opinion, it's like, oh, it's okay for me to behave this way. It's okay for me to pick on people that I don't like because they don't agree with me. And I don't like that. It's like, you are no better than the people that you are constantly against. Say that you're against, say that they're bullying everybody. It's like, but you sit and pick and take and put labels on them just the same.
Here's one I heard a lot of.
If you don't want to be labeled, then stop calling them that. They're asshole people, and you're wasting your time with them.
Here's one I heard a whole lot of in a lot of my comment section of the video I made. Yeah, Jesse, you're right. It is really, really messed up to just like the liberals try to want to say all the time, if they don't walk the walk, it is really messed up to compare, conservatives to Nazis like they do all the time. It's really messed up that they call us Nazis all the time. It's really, really messed up to just call people Nazis who aren't actual Nazis. But man, all those liberals acting just like Nazis. And I'm like, really? Do you not fucking hear it? Literally the school where people go, yeah, you're so right. It is really, really messed up to call people Nazis who aren't acting like, who aren't actual literal Nazis, and literally turning around going, but those liberals really are sure. Like, do you not fucking hear yourselves? No, I have just as much of a problem with you as with them doing it. It's the same fucking shit. Once again, it is tokenizing other people's tragedies to try to make your own fucking points because you're too lazy or stupid to come up with real points on your own. Stop tokenizing shit that didn't fucking happen. It didn't even happen to fucking me. But I certainly have more cause to talk about that shit than most people. But I don't run around fucking talking. I don't need to wake up every morning going, hey, do you remember the Holocaust? It happened to my people. It sucked. Make sure you don't say anything offensive about it today, okay?
You just come up to the way you came up to the camera like that with your glasses. Do you remember the Holocaust?
You remember that thing? It happened to my people. I suffer for it every day. Oh my god.
Even though I've never been to Germany.
I watched the episode today of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where two of the characters find out their grandfather was a literal Nazi, and I fucking laughed because it was fun. I get triggered, I didn't shit my pants or cry or scream or go, hey, the Nazis are back. I laughed because it's fucking funny. Yes, it is always 100% of the time jarring whenever I see a swastika. If I see it in the media or in some place that it is, supposed to be, in some place that's not events, I still have a moment of when I see one. And you know what? Depending on the context, that doesn't mean that's my journey. That's my experience. That is my relationship with something that happened to my people. It is nowhere. Am I running around being like, take it away, it's offensive, it's this, it's that. I don't want that shit graffiti anywhere in my fucking neighborhood. But if it's, in a historical depiction, if it's in a museum as memorabilia, if it's being used in comedy as a joke, I don't give a flying fuck. It didn't. Guess what? Thick skin will stop me from being hurt by those things. Thick skin will not stop you from dying in a goddamn gas chamber. So instead of whining and bitching about, oh, my people, and oh, you've wounded me, wake up and realize you're not a slave. You're not being stoned to death on the street. You're not living in a country where it's illegal to be what you are. You're not being gassed. You're not being abused, bullied, you think you're being bullied. You're not being persecuted. Your life isn't at risk. And the fucked up part is you're running around acting like it is. There are people out there, who have minority status and not, whose lives are at risk because of their identity. And you ain't doing shit to help them out. You're too busy trying to whine and bitch about your own life.
Right. I'm going to end with a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. It's a very famous one. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Ooh. And I agree with that,
Bam.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and she was, a strong, smart, empowered woman. I'm going to listen to her rather than than any keyboard warrior from any side who wants to tell me that they know what's up. They know what's right and wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that you can't fight against the people that are like that, because it is important. But I think the best way to really start is to start just making your own stuff and supporting the things you want to support instead of just constantly trying to tell people that they're wrong. And it's not getting anywhere at this point. It's not getting us anywhere. It's not changing their minds. And I've just come to, I used to be one of those people that go around and say all the slogans. Oh, facts don't care about your feelings, and you're a social justice Nazi or some shit like that. I'd say that, and then I realized I'm like, this is not getting me anywhere. In fact, it's making me angry. And I'm feeling frustrated. And it's like, this isn't good for my health. And, I want people to sort of I believe in unity. And it's, you're never going to agree with everybody 100%. It's just doesn't work like that, Mm-hmm. But I do believe in unity, and I do believe in unifying people. And the best way to do that is by supporting good art, good stories. Pick which ones you want to read. Pick which ones you want to watch. But granted, right now it's a little difficult.
John 42, Social Justice Jessie, has a message for you. She said, please don't besmirch Eleanor Roosevelt's memory by giving her your approval, because as a white man, that actually makes it mean less.
Hi, John 42.
We love you, John 42.
We love John.
Kelly, what are some of your least favorite female characters from movies of the past 5 years? And what makes them so much worse than just bad characters?
I have to be completely forthright on this. I really have not engaged with much of the recent media in the last 5 years, other than a few more independent projects and a few foreign films.
Good for you.
I just really don't watch a lot of mainstream stuff. But obviously, I would have to say probably, unfortunately, Rey Skywalker.
Oh.
Or Rey Palpatine, I'm going to call her. Hang on. I made a list here. Let me see.
I forgot my list when I left my house to come to my aunt's, and so I'm going to have to go off of memory.
That's all right.
I wrote Rey Skywalker, Rey Palpatine, excuse me. And I wrote the film version of Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. I love her in the book.
God.
I love her in the book, but I was really frustrated with the way that they changed her character, and they even changed Ron's character to artificially inflate her characteristics. So that was really frustrating.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Let's
Yeah,
talk about that one for a second, and some of those changes and some of those differences. And then, like, I mean, even with that, some of the changes in the way J.K. Rowling has presented her material. But yeah, that's one that's always striking for me, because I had that moment with Hermione where I was like, ooh, I want to put her on my list of like strong, awesome characters. And I thought about her evolution in the movies, and I went, no, because, you know, when they switched directors and she immediately went for the hair, it really turned me off, because I was like, immediately that let me know that they lost her character. You know, that you prioritize appearance in some way for this character that is 100,000% not about that. She is a pretty girl. You don't need a Princess Diaries her up to make us be able to see that. You know, this is not fucking Anne Hathaway at the beginning of that movie where they throw braces and bullshit on her to make her look extra ugly. She's got frizzy hair, but underneath
she
that,
just looked like a normal girl to me.
Exactly. And yeah, Kelly, keep going with some of the, you know, going a little more. Tell us more about, you know, the changing, the way they changed the characters.
Well, I just want to point out this weird psychological phenomenon that happened that I wasn't even aware of. So I wrote my notes, I don't know if you can see here, on these were my favorite characters, and look how neat and legible my handwriting is. And then this is so weird. I did not do this consciously. I didn't even realize when I wrote about my least favorite, my handwriting got visibly sloppy.
Wow.
And there was such a shift, and it just reminded me, like, I have a strong adversity to even engaging with things that I don't like or enjoy, just almost like as a way to protect myself, I think. Like, I don't watch the news. I'm not on social media. I'm not active on social media. And it's just really funny to me to see that sharp contrast. But yeah, so to me, I mean, obviously everyone knows why we don't like Rey. She has no actually interesting or compelling features at all that make her even remotely realistic, let alone relatable, let alone empowering. It's not an empowering character. And this is the phenomenon that I've noticed that goes back to the film version of Hermione, is that what they did with the film version of Hermione was not only did they kind of strip away her vulnerabilities and her softness, but they also stripped away some of Ron Weasley's intelligence and
they did.
Yeah, and his just because they actually, and I remember, I forget which it was, in the scene with like the plants in the final conflict.
And the Devil's Snare.
He was the one that figured out that it was not supposed to be sunlight, but they had her figure it out in the movie, just because, I mean, we already know Hermione's smart, but they couldn't even give Ron that. Like, Ron was intelligent in his own way, and yet they stripped that away to elevate her, and that's what they did with Rey.
Not to mention the part where in the
with the Devil's Snare.
The Devil's Snare with the Prisoner of Azkaban, he's the one who gets up on a broken leg and says, "If you'll have to kill me before you kill them," basically. But they gave that to Hermione and made Ron like look like a coward. I'm like, that's not Ron Weasley. They just did him such a huge disservice, because I guess Rupert Grant had great comedic timing, which he did, because I was always cracking up at him. But yeah, if over time I was like, I really, Hermione, I always preferred, other characters over Hermione, and at this point I'm a little over Harry Potter. But go ahead,
Another
Kelly, I'm sorry.
I've noticed about female characters is the way they're being written now. I wouldn't want to be friends with them. I like, and I'm all for like being friends with females. Obviously, my best friends are females. I have both. I have guy friends, I have girlfriends, and I love that. But I find that these females almost live in a vacuum, especially Rey. It was almost like she existed in a vacuum. Obviously, there were no obstacles written into her storyline. There were no obstacles. There were no challenges inherent. Like, she just breezed through everything. It's just frustrating. It's just sad, because they think that they're making these role models, these strong role models, but they're really taking away all of their strength that have anything to do with them being female, and they're just
so, well, Super Cat from Andy from the UK,
Andy's here! Andy! Oh my god, Andy!
And he says, "Hey, lovely peeps, just woke up. Hope you're all well." Bo-Katan was like this in the animated shows Rebels and Clone Wars. I heard that, Andy, and no disagreement with her portrayal, only point I was making is that if you're not familiar with her character, it feels out of the blue. And not everybody watching The Mandalorian. In fact, most people watching The Mandalorian weren't familiar with her character. So that's what reads to most of your audience. Although I'm thrilled for the people I know. Anna really loved that episode. And I was happy that people got that and enjoyed it. But I also, it's like if you want to be the police for the stuff and look at the stuff and call it out. And the thing that really frustrated me about it wasn't so much that, people weren't calling it out, but that people were actively fighting me on it when I did call it out, which is like, look, I'm not saying don't like it. I'm just acknowledge it, be consistent. And maybe if you're fighting me on it so hard and getting so mad because I pointed out something that's very, very basically factually true. It is a fact that a character that we have never seen before on the show and never been introduced to before flies in to tell the man why he is doing it wrong. That is factually what happens in the show. You cannot dispute that. And so if you're getting really, really mad about that fact, maybe you should examine why. Maybe it's because, I don't know, you have a really strong, close connection to Bo-Katan, and you were happy to see her in the show, and we're willing to look past that because of the good portrayal. There is nothing wrong with that. That is human. Yeah. How you act next, how you proceed next determines everything. You realize that that's what's going on and chill out or examine your own, reaction. And parse out a more logical way through, or do you continue to go, no, I feel a certain way, and that's that. Andy, you and I are good friends. I know no matter what, however we feel about it, you and I are always gonna be able to talk about the show civilly and be friends afterwards, even if we don't agree. So you
can't help how you feel, but you can't help how you act.
Exactly. But Andy also says they made Ron look weak, which is exactly what we were.
They did make Ron look weak, and I felt because I always really loved Ron Weasley. I loved him as a character in the book. I remember he was my favorite character, but I think there was a documentary out there or something. J.K. Rowling was a little worried because there was the first one was an American director. I think the first two were American directors.
Chris Columbus, I think.
Yeah. And
Chris
he said
Columbus
that Hermione was his favorite character.
Yeah.
And Hermione's not even particularly likable, but I felt like they took away those things about her because there are girls out there who are like Hermione that aren't particularly likable or people that don't understand them. And because I was one of those girls, I didn't have very many friends growing up as a child or as a teenager. I was very elusive. I said things. I was a contrarian. I didn't go with the flow. And it's not to sit here. It was very difficult because I wanted to be liked. I still had all those same wishes and desires that everybody has. Some people really do want to be liked, and there's nothing wrong with that feeling. And I feel like people are making it like it's a problem, and it's not. It's a very human thing, and they took that away from Hermione.
You're right. You know what? And that's a great point, is that she wasn't likable in the beginning. She was very contrarian. She was very condescending towards people. She used her intellect to separate herself. But because of that desperation for love, she learned to be there for her friends. She learned to be, what did I say here? She wrote, I wrote that, where did it go? She learned to tap into her vulnerability and to be compassionate and to be truly there for her friends. And I didn't see that in the film version.
Yeah. Actually, in the book,
I see you.
It's kind of like there's that one moment, obviously a condensed timeline, but Sarah in The Land Before Time, she was my favorite character.
Sarah, I was compared to Sarah all the time.
She was my favorite character.
Mine too.
And then there's that moment, though. She has that moment. She's so proud, going to go off on her own because she doesn't need anybody. But then it's so cold that she comes back to huddle with everyone else, and she's lonely and sad and feels left out. And it was such a human moment and such a great moment. And you talk about the way it hits kids. Every kid has had that moment. Every adult has that moment where you're too proud to admit that you're wrong. And to see that, but also, in a beautiful moment like that, what happens when she comes over to the rest of them that she's just been kind of a bitch to, oh, I'm too good for you. I'm too good for you. Well, when she eats her slice of humble pie and comes crawling over, they accept her. That's sort of, one of the problems that we have in our storytelling, because it all comes from our culture, is you have to have both things. SweetP, you said earlier, you're the willingness to let people change. You cannot approach the people and stories with this absolution. And that's one of the things we've seen is there's no forgiveness. Where's Poe's redemption in The Last Jedi? Where's the moment? Where's his catharsis?
That was so, as somebody who believes that catharsis is important. And
yeah, where's his true? Sorry,
that bothered me. It
Yeah.
bothered me, and to the point I walked out of the theater. I walked out of the theater and I was done. I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
watching this fucking movie no more. I already wasted a bunch of movie, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of dweebs. And sorry.
Exactly, because the way you set this up, the way you set this story up, Haldo's someone he admires before she even walks in the door. So it works in a comedy. This is not a comedy, so I don't think it really tracks as in a drama, this relationship to begin with. In a comedy, I would expect, okay, the person he admires, oh, it's a woman. I wasn't expecting that. And now they have an antagonistic relationship and then they fall in love at the end. Okay, whatever. But you have an antagonistic relationship set up between these two characters from the get-go, and she treats him like crap and pulls the rank card on him consistently throughout. So you would expect a catharsis between the two of them before she goes and fucking dies. And instead she goes and has a little catharsis with Leia, who's been in a goddamn coma for the rest of the movie and isn't even fucking alive anymore, you know, in the real world. So like, I don't care that it's actually making it worse for me that this one moment of catharsis we're getting is between, you know, this character who I'm never going to get to see play again because the fucking actress died, you know, and fucking a character who means nothing to me, you know. So going back, she's probably in internet because she was froze on us a little bit there.
Sorry, I was like, whenever you start talking like that, I was like, you sound like a robot. Like it was like a glitch in the system. I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for it to pass. I'm gonna wait for it to. I like the Turtles too. I saw that. I love Ninja Turtles. I love it.
Oh, he just said I like turtles. I was assuming it was the video.
If you're talking about turtles.
Oh, one point I wanted to go back on to where we were talking about, I think earlier. One of you were talking about Captain Marvel, the unrealistic, you know, powers and shooting lightning out of every orifice and crap like that. Which brought me back to Mulan too. First, because great example, right? Mulan doesn't need to fucking blow a ship up in her face and get magical powers to be able to defeat the Huns and do all this stuff. Which the bullshit of them apparently making her, you know, have magical powers and shit.
That was so. That took a hard left turn.
I did not watch the new one. Once I heard about all the crap that came out around, I was like, I don't have fucking time for this shit. But the old one, one of my favorite moments, the moment where she's gonna, you know, flunk out during our make a man out of you montage, and she is able to climb the pillar, not because she's worked the hardest to become unrealistically somehow go from a waifish little girl to being the buffest, strongest, you know, of any of the men.
She used her brains.
Exactly. She used her fucking brains. Then again, when they're on the mountaintop and there's one cannon left and there's no fucking way they're going to defeat the Huns army, she figures out how to use her brain.
Practicality.
Exactly. And to me, it does such a beautiful job of highlighting the differences between men and women and never once shitting on either's strengths. Shang's strength becomes very important at points. You know, he comes up, he's the strength that backs her up when they're protecting the Emperor at the end. And even the intelligence in that movie, you know, to have your three comedic male characters cross-dress with her for the comedy, but not to have your sexy man cross-dress. That does not happen in the movie. Now it's all about the man has to prostrate himself at, you know, on the altar of dignity in order to earn her love or affection or this or that.
I just don't understand that mentality because I don't find that at all.
I don't find that sexy.
And granted, like, you know, I know women have a tendency to project and we do have to seek more validation than men do. That's just the way our brains are. I have no shame in admitting that. But I just don't see all the women I know, and I know a bunch of them, and I've been around for almost 30 fucking years. So like, I don't see that. It's like, I don't want a man to belittle himself to appease me. I don't like that. It's like, I just want you to be who you are.
Yes.
And I want to like who you are. And if I don't like who you are, I'm sorry. It happens. But you don't need to sit here and try and impress me with these really stupid and honestly degrading tactics. I don't think there's anything wrong with people who want to cross-dress. Obviously, I love drag queens. I do. They're funny. But, you know, it's like whenever they do that, like say the pregnancy simulators, I don't think that's really needed. It's like, I think men understand that it's a very painful process. It's heavy. And I don't think, you know, they can't have children. I'm sorry, you know, whatever people out there that say that's not true, biological men cannot have children. They can't.
Accurate.
And so I just don't want a man who belittles himself to make me feel good. I just, you know, I want to know who they are as people.
Yeah.
And, it's what women find the most attractive is just, and also competence, intelligence, a strength that doesn't always have to be physical strength, but the strength and integrity of having a good man by your side.
I've always said I could not be with a man who is both physically and emotionally weaker than me.
Yeah.
And I've been in relationships, and the switch that has flipped has been the moment I've realized that I have become both physically and emotionally stronger than the person I'm in a relationship with. And that's not very attractive anymore.
No, it's not. And you can't help what you're attracted to.
No, in point of fact, I have always been attracted to strong, powerful, physically powerful men. I've always been attracted to masculinity. Because part of it, that's twofold. One, all the things you said about being more emotional, needing emotional validation or an emotional feedback loop, more intensely than most men that I know. But then also for me, also being an extra emotional creature on top of all that shit.
Me too. Oh my God.
Plus being tough and strong myself. I'm not looking for somebody to play the beta in my relationship. I need someone who can be stronger than me. Hence why my man is a fucking brick wall.
So. Yeah, I love that Jeff is so big, and it's just honestly the cutest thing ever. When y'all got together, I was like, oh my God, I love you so much. I'm sorry. But Kelly, you still had a list, right? I'm sorry, I want to know what else is on that list.
Yeah, what else on your
so
list?
badly.
Who made your list?
Oh, the good ones or the bad ones?
We can do whichever one.
Either or, whichever ones you want to talk about more.
Okay, my third one was interchangeable between Rose Tico and Laura Dern. I forgot her
Laura
name.
Dern.
Holdo. I just didn't even care. I'll start with my honorable mentions because I feel like my three main ones are Leia Organa, Ellen Ripley, and Sarah Connor.
Nice.
I had honorable mentions. All the Greek goddesses. I mean, I think we forget all of them. They had divine femininity. They were layered. They were dynamic. They still had vulnerabilities, but they were
sexual.
Even though they were goddesses, they were human. They embodied human qualities and human fallibility. All the Greek goddesses were amazing.
Yes.
Clarice Starling, Trinity from The Matrix.
Oh,
I love Evie from The Mummy.
Yes, Rachel Weisz, right?
Yes, I love her.
So beautiful.
So good. Another great example of a woman who is able to be completely strong in her own ways, never has to try to be like the men, but always contributes because she brings something different to the table.
Exactly. And in a very similar vein, Marion Ravenwood.
Oh yeah, I love her too.
From Raiders. Dr. Ellie Sadler, the paleobotanist from Jurassic Park.
Yep.
One of my favorite shows is 6 Feet Under, and I love the character of Claire Fisher. She's really dynamic. She has a great arc. Luna Lovegood.
I love Luna Lovegood.
And Mrs. Weasley, Ron's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wrote Audrey Horne from Twin Peaks. It's a David Lynch show. And then Allison from Hocus Pocus.
That's such a great list because everybody on there, they're strong in different reasons. But a lot of them, it's funny, most characters on your list all have somebody else that they care very fiercely about, and that's a defining characteristic. Which, that's one of those things where it's like, you, Kelly, you're a very caring, nurturing person. Do you have siblings?
I don't. I always wished I had siblings, but I had a lot of pets.
That makes sense, though. It's like you kind of seem like the kind of person who probably adopts everyone in your life. They become your family and you really nurture and care for them. So that's probably been an intrinsic trait for you since you were born, right? That's not something you learned. That's just something that's how you are. And so as you grow up, movies like that, these characters that reach out and speak to you, all of which spoke to me on some level and other as well, these become your roadmap and your guideposts as you grow up for how to be a good, caring, nurturing person. And the really cool thing that I think movies do for us that we don't realize, they help us spring our own mental traps because they show us the pitfalls of being these types of people. I think it's from watching... I think it was when I finally got into watching sitcoms that I realized that I could, and then seeing a couple of these people in my life, that I realized I could be that person that always had to be helpful for me. And sometimes trying to be helpful was actually getting people's way and not helping them.
Wow.
And I learned how to not be that kind of person because I finally learned, you know, it was that, and it was another journey, somebody in my life getting over an addiction, going through a lot of exploration and learning how one of the big takeaways was guilt is just another form of self-honoring. Learning how a lot of traits that we look at as being one way, traits we look at as being selfless can actually be selfish. Traits we look at as being positive can actually hurt, be damaging if we don't experience them in healthy ways.
Yes.
And so when we watch movies, a lot of them, that's what they do. They take certain human traits, magnify them to the nth degree. Situational comedies are exactly that. People getting into situations because of usually those exaggerated characteristics, leading them to tell a story a certain way or lie or omit a truth or whatever. And we learn those lessons. Oh, if we do shitty things like that, that's what happens. You watch enough fucking Supernatural, eventually you realize, Dean, if you just told Sam the truth, this entire season would be completely unnecessary.
Oh my God. Okay, so I have some opinions on Sam Winchester. I do not like Sam Winchester.
Which one is Sam? Which one is he?
Sam is
the
the
tall
big one.
Sam's the big
He's
one.
Jared
Sam's the
Padalecki.
moose.
I forget which one's which. There was one that was kind of pretty, and then there was one that was kind of more.
The gruff, short-haired, blonde one is Dean.
Mm-hmm.
The prettier, tall, dark, handsome one is Sam.
Which is really interesting because Sam has characteristically the most interesting concepts given to him, but to me he's so boring as a character. Like I always wanted to see more of Dean.
I'm gonna look them up so I know who you guys are talking about. I need to remind myself.
I agree.
Or Crowley or Lucifer or Gabriel. Those are I love the angels. I wanted to know more about the archangels whenever they started coming in, and Castiel. I used to not like him, but when I started watching the show, I was like, "You're okay, Cass. You're okay."
We finally got to this place where he's growing on Jeff.
Oh yes, Sam Winchester's the boring one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, Sam and Dean are just good foils for each other.
They really are.
And but they're
True.
good brothers. But the thing is, there's some stuff that you're right. If they just talk to each other, it's okay, this is where I have a problem where the same thing happens with Loki. Is wherever he seems to have potential character development, but when we see him in another movie, it just regresses. The same thing happens.
See, I don't mind him being. I actually had the biggest problem with the way he dies because I think that I don't mind that. That to me is consistent. He's consistently the character that, yes, that growth matters, that morality matters, and he does show flashes of goodness, but at the end of the day, he's always out for number one. And so I thought that the way they killed him off with this sort of sudden, desperate self-sacrifice play was not in keeping with the character that they had teased us the entire way through. And I'm still very disappointed that they never addressed that in any other way and just kept that as the way they killed him.
That's such a bummer because I thought Loki was one of my favorite.
Me too. Oh gosh, the Loki craze that came. I was explaining to Mando the other night that there was a Loki craze whenever Avengers came out. He's like, that was a thing. I'm like, dude, I was in deep.
So it took me a long time to be critical of Age of Ultron because it took me hearing other people talk about it to realize that it really was a lesser Avengers film. I took myself out of the conversation because I assumed that I was entering with a world of bias because it didn't have Loki in it.
Right.
It's unacceptable to me. So
Age of Ultron, I think that's another example, talking about female characters, that where Josh Whedon got into another pot of hot water was whenever he made a creative decision to have Natasha explain to Bruce about how she had her uterus removed, and that essentially felt like she was a monster. But I don't think it was necessarily because she had her uterus removed and she couldn't have her children, but because she had done all these terrible things. And so it's well, it makes sense for me to have my uterus removed because how could I ever have a child having done the things I've done? And people went ballistic over that and started calling him that he was sexist and how dare you do that. I'm just like, how do you know that? Why do characters have to automatically essentially reflect everyone else's views? Can't they be people on their own? Characters have no true identity anymore that isn't the superficial stuff that we keep seeing, the identity, the haircut.
It's so crazy. It's you're not allowed to be. There's fucking rules. You have to be this way or that way or that way. If you break into, and that's it can't. It's boring. It's fucking boring. Oh, you have to be this kind of character. I'm sitting there, on the phone, on a conference call with my agent because she works with literary division as well, and we're working on children's books. And we're talking about the need for the market needs. And okay, well, you have this great story. Let's make the characters black and it'll sell better. Okay, but you can't make. But the story's about a little girl with a single mom. Oh, you can't do that though if you make them black characters, because then it's gonna be the classic story of the daddy who left and this and that and the single mom and the blah blah. So I said, okay, well, what if it's and then also I can't write it or I can't be attached to it because then I'm writing a white savior. Then I'm the white person writing this stereotypical story about a black person's situation. So, but then I pitched, okay, well, what if it's a mixed girl and a white mom? That's autobiographical to Jeff's life, white mom and all that shit. And then it's also not trying to be a savior. And then the character that she meets was already going to be mixed because it's based on Jeff. So, bam, 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 bam. She literally sends this up the chain, to the person who handles this stuff. And is like, does this would a mixed girl with a white mom work? And the person said yes. So, okay, that's what we're doing. Like
Jesse.
And the thing is, these are all people who are not on board with this type of decision making. These are people who are just trying to learn the rules so they can play the game and get ahead in the system. I'm very glad to be attached to an agency.
The rules. Isn't that so crazy that there are rules to
For
art
literature now? Yeah.
There are rules.
Literature, art, any form of real art and media and media's, it's become it's so
a machine.
So
it's
scary.
Just a machine now.
It's a brainless machine.
I was instructed in the I'll tell you real quick. I was instructed in the interest of my career to go back and delete any and all of my tweets that are more than 6 months old.
And the thing is, like, I've reached out to agents with queries, who either they don't answer me back, or I have gotten a response saying, I like it, but it's not marketable. And I kind of like that it's not marketable, because that means it does, because any great story is always going to transcend a genre, always. And most stories genre blend anyway. Most fiction is fantasy. It's all fantasy. There's fantasy elements in just about anything. Phantasmagorical elements in everything that you see, even in slice of life. It's essentially a fantasy or an idea of a life. Or you can't be honest in storytelling anymore because nobody wants to suffer the Twitter mob or the repercussions that could come. And it's like, that to me is so criminal, because books are so important to me. And I'll tell you why they're important to me. For one thing, they are essentially the best form of history that we have, because they represent the author's worldview as they knew it or know it. And to strip away any author's agency completely waters down their creativity, that they have to force in these elements. That's what happened with the whole Hunger Games thing, that Suzanne Collins had to put in a love triangle for it to sell, and had to make it 3 books. It was supposed to originally just be 1.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, that bothers me, because people who sit there and say, I need to censor a book, and I'm just like, that is so against everything that a book is to me. Because lately J.K. Rowling, for better or for worse, of what she's been doing lately, I think she finally stuck to some principle and did not back down. But now people are burning Harry Potter books, and that makes me angry, because to me, when you murder, or whenever you burn a book, you are symbolically murdering somebody, to me, because that is kind of their heart and soul.
Are people actually burning Harry Potter books?
They were burning Harry Potter books, even though Harry Potter had nothing to do with what was going on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You don't get to be the people accusing everyone else of being a fucking Nazi and then go burn books. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What the fuck are you doing? You really want to be the people, like, it's just fucking, like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be the one calling them Nazis and telling them this. I'm just going to point out the utter fucking hypocrisy in pointing the finger and saying, you're Nazis, you're Nazis, you're Nazis, when you are literally burning fucking books.
I mean,
it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. It is your actions that matter, not your words. It does not matter how much you talk about loving women and wanting to support them and all this shit. If all of your movies that come out are about milquetoast, weak women who are all subservient to men, I don't believe you. You're showing me your hand. You're showing me you're a group of people who don't want agency, power, or development in your characters. You want a bunch, and that's the whole joke of it. Because guess what? The majority of people still writing these movies and the shit that's getting made are still the same fucking fucking white men who were writing them last year and the year before and 10 fucking years ago. The industry ain't changed all that much in the past decade. It really fucking hasn't.
No, it hasn't.
All you're doing is letting, because your own fifi is thinking, believing that they're pandering to you. You're letting a bunch of fucking the same white guys that you hate and can't stand now tell you how to be woke. Well, joke is on fucking you because they're packaging you bullshit that's just going to teach you to be subservient to them.
Exactly. And whenever I see somebody, now granted, if you burn a book and you don't do it publicly, I can't stop you. I can't see it, whatever. That might be a personal thing. But when you make a show of it, to me, there's an episode. I don't know if any of you ever watched the Waltons growing up or saw episodes of the Waltons with like Richard Thomas, I think is his name. He played John Boy, and he was a writer, and he was very passionate about books. And it was about this family existing during the Great Depression. At some point, it bleeds into when all the stuff that's happening over in Germany at that point. And John Boy gets wind of Hitler's book Mein Kampf. And he wants to write an article about it because he's the columnist for the little town he lives in. And whenever people are kind of already getting an idea of what's going on overseas, and so it essentially made them very fearful, and it prompted the community to turn against the family. Somebody I think they either shot in the window or they threw a brick in the window to scare them in the house. But it finally comes to a head whenever the essential, the pastor, the Baptist preacher calls a meeting to the town meeting to sort of like stop stoking the flames of the anger that's been going on. And he says, well, we know, what's going on over in Germany, and we know what's going to be happening. And I say we have a symbolic, we have a protest of our own. They're burning our Western literature, blah, blah, blah. So I say we're going to protest by having a book burning of our own. And they were going to burn a bunch of German books, right? And he had Mein Kampf in his hand, and then some dude gets up from the crowd, and he has like this whole, like this sack full of German books that he found. He starts like throwing them in the fire, quoting that he's going to keep them warm. And then John Boy gets up there and he stops that shit immediately. And, essentially he goes on this spiel of like, do you have any idea that this is happening all over Germany? All over Germany. I wanted to I heard that like a dictator was planning to publish his plans to take over the world, and I thought you ought to have a right to know about it. Just like I would tell you if you had, I'd tell you if there was a blight threatening your crops or a scandal that was threatening your government, because as far as I'm concerned, that's freedom. And if you choose not to know about it, that's freedom too. But whenever you take something, when you take a book and you throw it in the fire, then you can't know about it. And then you had your freedom taken away from you. And so if this book is more dangerous in one piece, he holds Mein Kampf, if this book is more dangerous in one piece than it is burning in ashes in the fire, then come up here and take it out of my hand and throw it in the fire. Throw them all in the fire. And it completely shut everyone down. And that sparked such a passion in me for literature. And I thought, I will never burn a book. Not ever. No matter how much I hate it, I will never burn it, because that's somebody else's mind. That's somebody else's, thoughts and feelings. And it's like, to me, when you make a show of it, then you're saying you don't have a right to know about it. You're not allowed to know about it because I don't like it. And that pisses me off. This whole censorship bullshit. Get out of my face with it. If you can't handle some of the stuff that happens in literature, go back to reading middle grade or YA for that matter, or new adult, which is what I like to call the bastard child of YA, because that's what it is. Yeah. And like, oh, I get so angry about, that's the one thing. If you really want to chap my ass, then you burn a book, and I will come with a pitchfork, and I will be like, all right, it's on, you asked for it, and I will go off at it. But that was so important to me, what he said, because book burning is typically associated with fear
and ignorance
and Nazi Germany.
True story.
So that was my rant.
It's three most powerful associations. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I had a point I wanted to make on it, but now I forgot it because dumb. Brain fart. Oh no, yeah. You can choose to not read a book. Nobody makes you read a book outside of school, right? You can choose to read a book or not. Even in school, you can choose to not read a book. Many of my classmates did. You don't have the right to take that choice away from somebody else, though. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like that. It's very obvious when you break it down into certain obvious things, you know, which is to say that, like, exactly that. If you don't like a book, don't read it. It can't hurt you if you don't read it. But if somebody else wants to enjoy and appreciate that book, who are you to say they can't do it?
Yeah.
You do not have the right to control what other people think, what other people believe, what they digest, what they read, what they see, what they, you know, consume in anywhere. You don't have that right. So stop worrying about what other people are reading or thinking or doing, and worry about the shit that you're doing and saying and thinking. Because if you're concerned with that, and you're doing and saying and thinking good things and putting good things into the world, you will bring more of them into it.
Right.
You're not going to get anywhere by trying to police everybody.
To both of your points, if those ideas contained within those books are so dangerous, I do believe, rather than trying to stamp them out and get rid of them, because inevitably they will pop up again in another form.
Yeah.
Why not be aware of that darkness so we can integrate it and learn how to navigate it in a healthy, aware way?
Exactly. The best,
you know, but then again, like it's just, it just comes back to ignorance and wanting to label things again. It's just all coming back to that, and so much of it is just short-sightedness of fighting so hard for your values, but not realizing that there are other people fighting for values with an equal intensity on the other side, and not understanding the complexity that lies between those things and the similarity those people each have on the either side, and realizing that there is a line that goes through all of us, and that's the line that we need to navigate, not the dark or the light. It's both. It's everything.
The one that blew my mind was the tweet. I think Jeremy Hamblin in the Quartering did a whole video on this one tweet.
I like him.
Someone basically said, you know, essentially, it's like, oh, great. Well, apparently it's really wrong to compare conservatives and Republicans to Jews in Nazi Germany, but it's totally fine to compare them to the Nazis, which is essentially what she did by saying, oh, you had a choice to be Republican, Nazis had a choice to be that. And it's like this comfort that everybody has publicly vilifying the other side. That's what it really gets to me. It's like behind closed doors in your kitchen, all Republicans are this, all liberals are that, all Democrats are this, all conservative, whatever. I don't care. But this business of feeling so comfortable, and it is both sides. You know, you hear the liberal talking points in our mainstream media a lot more, and certainly in the you know creative industries. But it's the same rhetoric on both sides, which is just people feeling very comfortable publicly vilifying the other side in ways that, you know, make us feel comfortable not treating those other people like they're human. It's that extension of how everyone started to be on the internet, right? If I treat you, and this is, I hate to be that you know person going, I told you so. It's the same shit I said years ago when it started to happen. When you talk to someone on the internet and you treat them like some of the words I said on the internet, and you let that barrier dehumanize them to the point where you forget conveniently that they're a person who is deserving the same rights, privileges, and freedoms that you are, you no longer will treat them with human dignity. And that we are now seeing that spill into the real world. This is not just isolated to keyboards, because now the things that happen on the internet have these ramifications. People are losing their jobs over this shit left and right. And you have seen instances where people have made things physical in the real world as a result of these convictions that are just so okay. You know, the guy who felt that it was so okay to hate white people that he beat the shit out of Rick Moranis on the street. The flip of that, you know, there are people who think, it's an easy example, people who think it's so okay to be upset about the way an election turned out that you're going to go take lives and commit crimes over it, you know, and want to justify and act like that's somehow all right or fine. We're not going to get into that or talk about that, but it's fucking not. So
yeah, it's been nuts, and I do think that this election was fishy is an understatement, but
I don't even give a flying fuck. Here's the thing. I don't give a flying fuck. When Trump won in 2016, the Democrats immediately went and whined and cried about how it was bad and this and that, and let's investigate it and this and that and the other. And all the Republicans wanted to do was bitch about how everything was on the up and up, and you're just sore losers. You're just being sore losers. You're just being sore losers.
No, the same thing's
4 years
happening.
go by, the same fucking thing happens in reverse. I don't fucking care. I will not give any credence to one side or the other, because they're both equally childish and do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. They do not deserve to be given any credibility or credence to trying to say that, because it's all hypocrisy.
Yeah. What I was going to say was like, yeah, it's okay to be upset about these things. It's okay to feel bad that you lost, no matter how unfair it might have been. But you have to accept your losses and just move on from it, and then try to win again next time. It's just that right now there's nothing you can really do. No amount of protest, or like you can't get your way like the other people are getting their way. Like, you don't stoop to that level. Be better.
Exactly.
Do better.
Exactly. Exactly.
But to me, we won't get into politics. We're talking about pop culture, which I think is more important than policy and politicians, because that's what actually changes the culture.
Exactly. The bullshit is everyone wants to sit here and talk about Washington, this and that and the other. The thing is, one, we will never have all the answers. We will never have all the information about what happened anywhere from the election through January 6th and beyond. We won't. We're not privy to that information. We don't affect those policies. I'm not a lawmaker. You're not a lawmaker. So it seems ridiculous also. Everyone wants to spin their wheels talking about shit that really doesn't affect them and that they don't have an effect on. So I'm with you. Pop culture it is.
I'm with you too. We're all going to ride or die. So that's another thing that I find a great characteristic, is loyalty in characters. Maybe even to a fault sometimes, where it's like, okay, yeah, you're a little bit too loyal to your cause. You're not, because like, it was like what Kelly was saying a minute ago about how,
I'm going to stop you for a second. Hold on. Pause. I had to do this. Fuck you and fuck every single fucking person who comes to this fucking channel and wants to sit here and tell me how great and smart and fierce and brilliant and amazing and tough and feisty I am, until I say something you fucking disagree with. And then it's, you sound uninformed. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Clearly you don't read. No, I just read different shit than you. We have had a 2-hour fucking stream about how people have their convictions and are equally as convicted. So I am sure you have hours worth of information about exactly why you are fucking right about this. Just as I have hours worth of information about how I am fucking right about this. But guess what? This is my fucking live stream. Yeah. I have a channel and a platform where we get to talk about the shit that I want to talk about. I humor all of your comments. I allow all of them. I allow all of your perspectives, whether or not I disagree with them. I do not shit on you or attack you or try to fucking insult you when you say shit that I don't just disagree with. But if you want to play that game, that's fine. Anyone who sits in this comment section and wants to start shitting on me or negging on me or insulting my intelligence because I said something you disagree with, those rules of courtesy don't apply to you anymore. So when you say something I think is fucking moronic, I'm going to pull it up on this fucking screen and tear you a new fucking asshole over.
Well, here's the thing. Like, it's like, well, what basis do you have to sit here and say that we're uninformed? Uninformed on what basis? We didn't even talk or went into what is the context? What are you saying that we are uninformed?
The context is I said something he disagreed with. He couldn't fucking handle it. So instead of even starting out with the thesis about why he disagreed, he immediately goes to, you sound uninformed. Well, guess what? As anybody who understands rhetoric knows, the second you start out with an ad hominem attack, you have admitted that your logic is lesser than the argument that you're going after.
It's like, well, we haven't even really gotten into the whole like election thing, which we aren't, because I'm tired of talking about that thing.
Likewise.
But it's like, you don't have any real basis of comparison to say that we have no real, information at our helm when we haven't even like said what we know. We're just giving an opinion on what we know right now.
Exactly. All we've said about is how much we really don't want to talk about it. So,
so we're gonna move on.
And this is me. This is Jesse now. I'm fucking over it. I'm not putting up with your fucking hypocrisy. I love everyone in the Mindless Mob. I love everyone on my streams. I love everyone in this community. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But when you throw bullshit at me, I will smack you down for it. I have zero tolerance left for bullshit. Zero. Yeah. And that used to, look, you guys don't realize how much bullshit I put up with before now, because I'm not anymore. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, she was saying the other day on Live that, like, yeah, well, y'all don't always agree with everything she says. The people who stay around despite the disagreement, that's what's important to her at the end of the day. It's like, you can sit here and disagree until the cows come home, but really that's all just the surface level stuff of what makes up the wonderful human being or the terrible human being or both. But it's like people these day and age, like a disagreement could end a friendship. And it's like I don't understand that, because like it's okay to disagree with people. That's actually a good thing. And for me, I think it's important to listen to other people and what they have to say.
And DJ Clark is lying to the chat about what he said too. It's right there, bro. We'll scroll right back to the part where you said you sound uninformed.
Once the Democratic law says 2016 is not comparable to the tactics used in 2020. It's not the same. That's all I said.
That is not even the comment we highlighted or talked about, DJ Klaus. So stop being insincere and a fucking liar, as well as a jackass. Take your opinions about this shit somewhere else where everyone wants to hear all your nuanced opinions and all the weird bullshit conspiracy crap you read on the fringes of the fucking internet that convince you that you're right because you found every YouTuber that tells you that you're right and refuse to even entertain a second of the story. Tell me something, DJ Klaus. Have you spent equal time watching videos that break down with equal fervor and passion why the opposite argument is just as right as you think yours is? Because until you've done that, you, my friend, are the uninformed one. Now get the fuck out of my chat or start saying something more useful. Yeah. Anyway, where were we?
Need some cold water for that burn. I'm just the thing is, like, I do in some instances, yeah, it's not completely the whole I don't know what happened, but it's not completely comparable to what happened after the 2016 because it hasn't been that long.
Pause. Moving on. No more child. No more. Okay, we're done with topics tonight. We're just fucking done. We're moving on because that's it. Because the thing is, Sweet P, you and I could have a 3-hour discussion about this.
We could.
And never once raise our voices. Our chat cannot handle that. They have already done. We danced around the subject. They already can't handle that.
Right.
Plus, this is adding too much more negativity.
This is true. Like,
and Jedi Bunny does not hang with negativity.
All right, we're not going to hang with negativity. I was just making a comment. Like,
no. Oh no! So off air, you and I can talk about this all day long. I had no problem.
It's okay. We don't have to talk about it.
We also could never because it's
like getting yelled at.
The thing is, I won't yell at you. You can ask Sean Firefart. We have long discussions. We don't agree on everything. We have long discussions.
I love Sean. Sean's great.
He is great.
I love disagreements. I think disagreements are a beautiful thing when people can move through them together, even if they don't see the same way, if they can still move through them and love and respect each other. I disagree with people on all the, like, some of the people that I hold nearest and dearest to my heart, I fundamentally disagree with on certain things, but I think there's so much grace in being able to just still love and accept that person. I think that's what's missing today, is the nuance and the context of understanding another human and understanding the complexity of what they grew up seeing and how they might perceive reality completely different from you, despite maybe even growing up in the same household as you. So it's I find this stuff beautiful and fascinating and chaotic and meaningful, but what's sad to me is how much public discourse is now not only it's not only not being had, it's being shut down.
Yeah,
and that's really sad.
Because when we disagree and we come out at, like, it's actually a bonding ritual and it's a trusting ritual. People don't understand that when you disagree with somebody and you get into the whole fight, it's like explosive, or it could be calm, but when you get through it, then you have a lot more respect for that person. You care more about that person, and you see, oh, our friendship totally wasn't affected by this, or our love wasn't affected by this, and you come out stronger for it on the other end. So I do believe in unifying people, and this whole, like, you're uninformed or whatever, it's not helping, like, at all. Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
It's time to move forward. And if y'all want to, those who dwell on the past are doomed to stay there, and I don't want to be there. So screw that.
I love the moving forward. It's good. It's so much of a trap. It is, though. Like, it really is. It's easy to get stuck right back in. Case in point, though, what you said about disagreement, Kelly. Like, this is not the first time I've gone off on my chat or on someone in the chat. I would say that the majority of time that has happened. Actually, here we go. I grant you, or he's saying he's apologized something to Andy. He's standing by everything else he says, but he apologized. So that's something. At least he's still here, which I always give people credit for that, for sticking around, even when they're being D-bags. And the thing is, most people who have found their way to the mindless mob, most of you guys will, you know, eventually get your shit together, even if it's a moment. I've seen moments. Look, that's one of the things I love. I always casually follow these in the chat. I have seen so many times in the chat, people go at it and then talk it through and then realize they were not as diametrically opposed as they thought they were and end up having a really good conversation and putting along. So
you would not believe how similar we are to one another despite our differences. It's when you take it away, like you take away the skin color, the places you come from, because everyone relates or it can see comparisons like in certain things that people do throughout their day. Like you may, you know, just because a rich person may have everything feasibly handed to them because they're rich doesn't mean that they're not without any sort of problems. Like that doesn't mean they can't suffer from depression or mental illness or have very human problems. You know, it may not be the same problems as say like someone who's homeless or poor or even middle class, but you know, we still like Frasier is a good example of this. If anybody's ever seen Frasier,
I love
you know,
Frasier.
I
Yes.
love Frasier too.
Yeah.
It's so freaking funny.
Roz is she's a cool role model.
So is Daphne.
Daphne is too. Yeah, that's true. They're great. They're awesome.
And they're actually funny.
They are.
By God, they're fucking funny.
They're so funny. And I think Bebe Neuwirth is in that. She's great.
Bebe.
Is it
But
Bebe?
yeah, Frasier essentially is an everyman character despite him being in the upper class.
Yeah.
He has everyman problems. His love life is terrible. He's divorced from his wife. He can't see his little boy. And his dad, despite not being as, you know, quote unquote intelligent as him, or, you know, in the sense of book smarts, but you know, his father is very wise and he's a wise ass too, but he also has a good way of grounding both his boys who are very pretentious and snobby, but they're still very like, you love them all the same. So that means like just because they're like well off does not mean that you cannot coexist with them or relate to them or find their traits or other characteristics that are admirable, likable. And so Frasier is a good example of that. It's like just because you're rich or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're inhuman or you're more than human. And that's the thing that
I'd like to point out, right? Things that are human, things that make us here, the mindless mob, different than other places and other people, right? I'm not here trying to cancel DJ Close. Did I block him or even mute him in the chat? Not a single time. He says, "Oh, you'll see me around." Great. I'm assuming, you know, I'm assuming that's not in a threatening manner because that just doesn't track with the way he's been talking in the chat. I'm assuming it's just, yeah, you're here, you know, you're not further intimidated just because someone had some strong words at you. And that's fine. That's the whole thing. Like it's important to remember this is not an equilibrium. This is my channel. This is my career. I am a personality and you are people in my chat. We are not doing the same thing here. And so we're not going to conduct ourselves the same ways. And that's just the reality some of the time. But again, that's not just because we're not doing the same things and not doing it in the same ways does not mean that you aren't equally important to me and equally valuable and going to be respected if you follow the rules that, I mean, it's a great example for you guys, right? SweetP, normally you're going to be sitting here watching the screen, typing in the chat.
Yeah.
On a show that you are not a part of, you're not going to be obsessively texting me to try to tell me what to say or be let on or anything like that. And when you're on the show, you're part of the conversation. You're not spending the whole time replying to the chat. You know,
I can't actually look at the chat, and that's probably a good thing because I might, but I would be more focused because, like, I mean, I prefer to like I said, it's very difficult for me to like focus on like 2 or 3 things at a time because then I start losing like track of my thoughts and I start stumbling over my words and I sound like a moron and it's totally embarrassing. But just I want y'all guys to know, I love the chat. I love the mindless mob. Like you guys are like the first like real chat and family I've ever found with like any community. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here and I'm on stream. I truly and honest to God mean that you guys are like, I look forward to coming to Jesse's show or watching Jeff's streams because I know people there and I have friends there and I've met great people. Mando Merck, like he's such a dear friend of mine. I love that guy. He's awesome. And then Rokan's like that guy's awesome too. Like I love talking to him. We have so much in common. Like that's my like soulmate. Like like we love the same stuff. Like he's just great. He's a great guy. He's very calming. Very sweet, and Mando is too. You know, me and Mando will chat online and voice chat with each other and talk geeky, nerdy stuff and have really deep conversations too. So, like, I'm very happy with what I have here. And I like that everyone is essentially welcome as long as you're not a real big asshole and continue to do so and present yourself that way.
Absolutely. And I want to just, go further than that too. And DJ Close, you are still always welcome here. But again, remember too, sometimes you're going to get shit because just because you don't realize the way the situation is, like we always say, just because you don't know something doesn't mean you're not accountable for your behavior or actions and shit. Ignorance is never an excuse for things like that, right? So what you don't realize in a situation where you want to get here and be the person who judges every fucking thing that I'm saying is you don't understand how much time and research and effort goes into the job that I do. You don't know what I read in my spare time or what I'm educated on and what I'm not educated on. You frankly don't know just how much I do know. And also, you're probably the 500th person today who has felt entitled to leave a comment somewhere in my various social media, whether or not I've seen it, to let me know how fucking retarded I am because I said something that you didn't like. Right?
Yeah,
Meanwhile, you're in a very comfortable position sitting at your computer deciding full well whether you want to keep listening to me or not, what you want to type or not, and have every ability to just mute me if I say something you don't want to hear. So it's a very different situation, which means that, yeah, I'm not going to have as much patience for the shit you say because I'm not doing the same job as you. I'm not casually hanging out in a chat trying to make my voice heard or get my point across or be part of the discussion. I'm running a fucking show here. And if you hear certain things, you see certain kinds of attitudes, and you just want to make sure people know they're not appreciated. Almost Tactical does appreciate it, though. It's definitely. I want to extend that to my guest, Kelly and SweetP. You guys are both amazing, and I'm glad you found that in the chat here, SweetP, because
I also wanted to point out Doxy Mama 82 and Go Big Boy Go Home. I love those two. I have essentially said, you guys are like my internet parents now, even though they're probably around my age anyway, but I love them. Like, they're so sweet. And Sean, when he did that thing for me, I'm still so grateful for that just the love that I really appreciate it so much. It's just such a blessing, and I feel very blessed. I know that's a overused word now, but I really mean that. Like, I love it here. I love that there's disagreements and that doesn't end in just an all-out oh god, what the hell's the term? My brain decided to derail.
Nuclear explosion.
A nuclear explosion.
The thing is that's me. Y'all come here for me. You want to see me? I yell and I scream, and then it's over and it's done. I'm not mad at DJ Close anymore. I don't give a shit.
Falling out.
It's that's me. If you don't understand yet that I'm a person that can go from 1 to 1,000 and then right back down and everything's fine, clearly you ain't been around the channel enough.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's just oh god, the list. I want to get back to this list, get back on track, because I love talking about characters so much, and that's something that really I'm very passionate about, is storytelling and characters, and I feel like it's just being so mishandled, and I feel like that's an understatement, because it's what Kelly said. It's just about what's marketable, what's gonna make them money. And then a lot of times whenever you see a quote unquote bad film, take FNAF or Fantastic Four movie that came out recently, I remember going in and watching that film, and I'd heard everything about it, saying, oh, it's terrible, it's this, that. But
Grandma, I was totally gonna make a joke about that. And by the way, it's somebody random trying to blackmail my ex or trying to lie to my ex to get him to do something terrible to me. Anyway, I was
Grand Moff Inquisitor. But anyway. I saw the beginning of that film and I was like, this is not that bad. I mean, it's different.
Which film is it, SweetP? Which film?
Fantastic Four, the one that just came out recently.
Okay.
I watched the beginning half, but when there's a lot of studio interference that happens, especially if they take a director who did the Fantastic Four film, who's essentially came from the indie scene, and when they get in those positions of being at having a lot of money, and the budget goes up, and there's a lot of time restraints and deadlines you have to meet, and things you can and cannot do, studios like Fox typically interfere with that, and that's what I think really killed that movie at the end of the day. I mean, the same thing happened with Stanley, Richard Stanley's The Island of Dr. Moreau. There's a whole documentary about that, how crazy
that's
that
a great
is.
documentary. I love that.
I love that documentary. I love how they talked about how Val Kilmer and freaking Marlon Brando were like in a freaking like feud with one another.
I've got to tell you guys, somebody I know from the fencing world, he went to college with Val Kilmer, and they're like still really good friends. They do pottery together and shit. Yeah, they make pottery together. I've seen pictures.
Val Kilmer, I think he's a character actor in a leading man body. I heard somebody describe it like that once, and
that's a really good way to put it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he's more like a Gary Oldman, where Gary Oldman, I swear to God, like I'll see him and something, I'm like, who is that? And it's Gary Oldman. I'm like, I didn't know that.
You ever see Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Oh my gosh. And but you know, a lot of studio interference can bomb a film, and it's like people need to realize it's like it's probably not the director's fault most of the time, unless you're Rian Johnson, then or J.J. Abrams, because those people do actually have a lot of power in the industry. They've been around for a long time. So you take someone like the guy who directed the new Fantastic Four film, you put him in a tank full of sharks, he's going to get chewed to pieces. Okay? He just doesn't have the right equipment. That's the truth.
Speaking the truth.
Speaking the truth. It's just the truth. And I felt bad for him, but that documentary about the Island of Dr. I was like shocked, and I was laughing at some point whenever like Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando were like at the pinnacle of their freaking like egos. And the people who were dressed up in all that like prosthetic makeup had to wait around for hours because either Marlon Brando wouldn't come out of his trailer until Val Kilmer came out of his trailer, but then Val Kilmer started doing the same thing to him, saying that he wasn't going to come out of his trailer until Marlon Brando came out of his trailer. And so that put the whole production on pause because these two egomaniacs would not get along with each other. It's like, you knew this going in. If you wanted to work with Brando, you ought to have known that he was going to be an almighty crazy man.
Everybody knows that's just well documented. They had to put his line. They had to hide his lines on set for most of his movies because he couldn't memorize them.
They had like a little earpiece in his thing. Like that's actually documented too. Like.
Now apparently, according to Andy from the UK, DJ Close is just a raging alcoholic. It happens on the channel, DJ Close. It's canon now. We can't help it. You're just a raging alcoholic. Every time you come into the chat now, we're just going to be like, oh my God, there's DJ Close again. How much has he had to drink this time? What crazy belligerent shit's he going to say? So there, now you're part of the Mindless Love channel. These are the things that happen. Oh, also, we did get the highest compliment that you can get on this channel from DJ Baker just a minute ago. I'll pull it up. And he made sure to include all you guys in it. Where did it go? There we go.
James Baker.
You guys are fine.
I love you, James Baker.
So
you're my buddy over on Live It Too.
That's the highest praise you can attribute to someone from the Mindless Mob to the Mindless Mob is you guys are fine, comma.
Thank you.
Thank you. Although, so it is getting very late. It is well past the time where it usually closes, but we had the world's worst Mad Libs last week.
We did.
It was awful. I expected better from fucking Andy Signor. The one from your last week, SweetP, was amazing. Our fucking the placenta of human kindness.
Out of the frying pan and into the Alamo is still like I still start laughing really
out
hard.
of the frying pan into the Alamo. That would kill me fucking hell. So Food for That Part 2 was a total fucking dud by comparison. So this week we gotta try to make it better.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best.
So I'll participate since there's only actually no wait, there's you two in the chat, so I don't need to participate. Cool. So every third word goes to the chat. Before we jump into Mad Libs, Kelly, since since you're the quiet one, I wanted some of your final thoughts, some of your wrap-up thoughts. Chat, if you guys want to start thinking about occupations, that'll be your first word. But in the meantime, Kelly, I did want to get some of your final thoughts about, the state of character building and entertainment and thoughts, maybe where it should go, where you'd like to see it go. And what are you going to do about it?
it's got to change. It has to be grounded in human experience. It can't be grounded in ideology and short-sighted desires to artificially elevate people that should be organically empowered, and it should come from a place of understanding that the human mind and the human behavior is complex. And what am I going to do about it? I'm just going to continue to try to have real conversations with people and connect with people in a way that maybe makes them realize those things, and where I continue to learn as a person, and I like being proven wrong. So if I hold a conviction, I always like feeling like, maybe there's another side to it. I like life feeling like a prism, not just like a polished globe. I think it's a prism, and I like to see as many sides as possible. And I think if we can just get people to see more sides again, and be more grounded in their experience, but also more open to other people's experiences, I think that's where it starts. So
Yeah.
I
And I think
agree with that completely.
Need more in different kinds of stories. We talked about not getting rid of the bad too. It's like, if you don't have any of the bad, how do you know what's good anymore? It kind of almost feels like that's what's happening. Oh, it's like everything's bad and wrong, and well, you're left with one uniform thing, and it can't be bad because there isn't anything else.
Right. And that goes to show you that's like the, it shows that you can't have, I mean, Kelly's right, because it's not just, you can't just, it's sort of like these people are emulating what they want a woman to be versus what a woman actually is. And it's not just men who are doing this. There's a lot of female authors that do it too, that just sort of make power fantasies versus an actual person.
Yep.
And I don't like that, because I just remember feeling more at home with characters who were human and, had very human problems, and I didn't need them to have these phantasmagorical like powers or anything like that. And as much as I love psionic powers and stuff, and I like there to be a bit of humanness there, not even just a bit, a lot, because that's what's really gonna sell a character to me, is if they're believable, admirable, flawed, and then that's what leads into relatability, is all those three characteristics to me. That's what I think, at least. And I think it's time, it's really got to start. I feel like books right now are the last line of defense we have. I think everybody at this point needs to go indie and start marketing yourself. It's like, at this point, there's no way you're going to change an industry. They're too set in their ways, and clearly they're not worried about the money.
Just tell stories. There's nothing stopping Dr. Alex, who's been in the chat a little bit tonight and apparently teaching people what sophistry means. Man after my own heart. Sophistry is my favorite. It's basically just bad logic. It's an entire school of logical thought devoted to purposely making flawed arguments in order to win. And I love it so much, and I love it, and I've studied a lot about it, which is why those arguments don't fucking work on me. Also, hail DJ Close, our resident alcoholic. I do have a surprise for you.
Hail to GJ Close.
He's now a resident alcoholic, so I do have a surprise for our raging drunk in Mad Libs later.
Okay, so
and it just worked out that way. D. James Baker. I'm going to take Hot Pocket as a noun because it's going to be funnier. We do have a type of food in this puzzle, but noun comes up first and it's funnier. So, and that said, we've been getting some fucking careers here. You guys have to help me decide on this one. Spelunker, occupations. Kai wanted to make Kelly talk more, which I agree with always. Honey dipper, dentist, Sleepy Town gas station attendant, proctologist. We got two of those. Bottom bitch. Good profession. Let's see.
How about a what was it about the gas station? Like gas station, a bottom bitch, sleepy gas station attendant? I don't know.
Oh my God. Wait. How about a Sleepy Town bottom bitch proctologist?
That's perfect.
Wow.
He's got all angles covered, whoever this person is. This magical person.
We are hailing a lot of members of the chat on that one, and I love it. Sleepy Town. We got Will Gentry in suggestion, as well as...
Oh, I love Will Gentry.
Somebody else's. Let's see. So Will Gentry said bottom bitch, as well as proctologist, but who else? Someone else said proctologist. John 42 also gives proctologist, and then sleepy gas station attendant. It was pew pew monger. So there you go.
Pew pew monger.
Sleepy town bottom bitch. Proctologist. Proctologist. All right, cool. So ladies. So Kelly, have you ever played Mad Libs on this channel before?
One time. The last time I streamed with you, there was an earthquake.
I remember that shit. That was fun. It was weird. Oh my god.
Who had the earthquake? I must have missed this. Who had the earthquake?
Oh, it was the California earthquake. It was Anna on that one too?
No, no, it was just, I think it was just you and me, and I think Jeff was there too, but it was like it hit me and then it hit you guys.
There was another time where Anna and I were on a stream and there was an earthquake.
Oh my god.
But I think it might have been one that I felt that she didn't because we were far enough away.
Okay.
But yeah, I do remember that one that it hit you were close. You were closer, right? And so it rolled through.
Yeah.
Like seconds apart. Oh god, that was so weird. Yeah, this shit happens out here all the time, so you just get used to it.
Well, Texas. I don't know what's going on with Texas right now.
Yeah, you guys are fucking icebox.
Ice-mageddon.
It's day after tomorrow. It's that
It's
part
day
where
after tomorrow.
freezes over. Kelly, you got an adjective.
Adjective. All right. I'm trying to think of something funny. I don't know, you know what, just slipping.
Slipping? All right. SweetP, a plural noun, please.
Plural noun. How about I still love the cleft lip shit eater. That random shit I brought up. Cleft lip shit eaters. But I won't do that. No good to like tell a joke twice. But how about parading shitlord pandas? I don't fucking know.
Parading shitlord pandas?
Yeah.
I like it.
From China.
Parading shitlord pandas. Aren't all pandas from China? Well, I mean, captivity, I guess. All right. Chat, you guys are working on a plural noun next. And as you guys work on that plural noun, Kelly, you have an adverb.
What's an adverb again?
Modifies a verb. So the ly ones usually. Quickly, swiftly.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Ridiculously. Spasmodically.
Retardedly.
Ooh, I like that one.
Spasmodically, that's actually a pretty good one.
Yeah, let's use that one. Can I take that one?
Yeah, and I'll tell you exactly why that one came out of my mouth. Because I just watched Elizabethtown again because that movie is actually legit, and if you haven't given it a chance, you probably should.
Oh, I'll write that down.
The shoe is called The Spasmodica.
Elizabeth.
You know what movie I just watched was There's Something About Mary or something?
I love that movie.
That scene where Ben Stiller had that like
the jizz
on his ear, I started screaming with laughter.
I love those directors. They're from my home state, Rhode Island.
What was I going to say about what was the movie I just said? Elizabethtown. So it really got marketed like a chick flick, and it really isn't. Yeah, there's a romance as a central part of the story. It's Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst. That's another great female character, by the way. She has a great arc in it and growth and all that. But it's basically about Orlando Bloom, who has just suffered this catastrophic failure at work, but then needs to go to his dad's hometown because his dad dies suddenly and he needs to deal with it. And it really is a movie about catharsis and human relationship and growth and figuring out what's important in life with dark, really dark twists. Like it's a dark comedy. It really is.
Yeah.
With a lot of heart too.
Genre is really just a marketing gimmick to me. And
It's
just how we're going to put, that's why some horror movies like The Village, for instance, or It Comes at Night were marketed as horror films because they're not necessarily like marketable, like in the sense that they are defined by a genre. They sort of transcend the genre.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times like you see some books get shoveled in with like a bunch of stuff that is chiefly the genre it's written for or directed. So genre is just a marketing gimmick. That's how I view it.
Pew Pew Monger says China still owns pandas in foreign zoos.
I did not know that.
I don't think that's true. SweetP, you have an adjective. And then we have plenty of plural noun suggestions from the chat as well.
Okay, so an adjective. How about, I gotta think about this one. Spontaneously.
Spontaneous for adjective.
Oh, spontaneous, my bad. No.
All
I was
good.
thinking of plural adjective.
Dude, it's late and words don't mean anything. So
Words don't mean
they don't ever mean anything. Let's see. For plural nouns from the chat, we had boob tubes, SW writers, hand models, balls, beans over Frank, cigarette lighters, curtains, no, beef curtains. Oh my God. Okay. Will Gentry's really on a tear tonight because just that curtains, no beef curtains. That won me. It's beef curtains now. It's Will Gentry is just winning my heart tonight.
Will Gentry is just a sweetie. Like I love being in the chat with Will Gentry.
I adore him. DJ Close says, I've never heard SweetP before, but she's made some really good points tonight. That's because the only time she's ever appeared on a stream was 2 weeks ago, also on this channel. I agree, though. She does make excellent points, and I expect you'll see more of her on my channel. And I'm also pimping her out to anybody who wants to hire. So
if anybody wants to have me on a stream, but I'm Jesse's bitch. So
I do have right of first refusal, but I do not have exclusive rights. So if you don't know what that means, you probably haven't bought a lot of livestock. Or specifically horses, because the livestock at large, not necessarily, but horses. Right of first refusal is a weird thing with like some types of like, typically it happens with like a lot of like show animals and stuff like that, but it's basically like if you sell an animal that you're still emotionally attached to or want to care about its well-being, you have a right of first refusal clause in your transaction. And basically it's basically, and you can do it with other things too, but essentially it's like when you sell an animal, something, if that person wants to then resell it, they have to offer it to you first. So I know horses, but I'm sure it's applied to a lot of other things.
Right. Yeah.
So right of first refusal, right? I get to put my foot down if you can't say you can't take it right from me.
Yeah. No, I just don't even know how I would deal in another chat. You know, there's a lot of needs more SweetP. I love you, Rokins. You're my best friend. You and Mando are my two best friends. My two best guy friends right now. I don't have many. All my male friends have just sort of like disappeared into the ether somewhere. I don't know where the hell they went. Love them, but they're all beta males. I don't know how that happened.
Turned out I've ended up with a lot of lady friends lately, even though I usually have more dude friends than man friends. But there's so much man in my life that I just don't need any other dudes anymore. Like one man, he's like all 100%
better around masculine energy. I don't know. There's something calming about it.
I do too.
Unless they're a bunch of betas. I mean, they all wondered why they couldn't get a date. I'm just like,
I'm not
y'all
here.
Could ask me. I can tell you why.
We're losing our Mad Libs thread though, so
sorry.
That's okay. It's my fault as much as anybody else's. I love getting off topic. It's my favorite thing to do. Chad is working a verb for me next. You guys are doing awesome tonight. Kelly is giving me a noun, especially because I know we're way past Kelly's bedtime too. So
it's actually it's so nice to be able to stay up late. It's actually really nice.
Well, good.
This is a good excuse to stay up late. I really enjoy this.
Well, anytime.
I'm naturally a night owl. I just force myself to go to sleep early because my boyfriend goes to sleep early, but he's sleeping with sound machines now.
So you guys have like multiple rooms in there too. Jeff is in the same room already sleeping, and we just do that. Like if he crashes out, if he needs to crash out before me at night, sometimes we always wake up enough to say our goodnights and stuff. And a lot of times in the morning, he wakes up a couple hours before me, starts getting some stuff done, and I just wake up a couple hours later. We still like when I wake up too. It's nice because like when I wake up, since we both work at home, we have all this free time. Whenever I go to bed, he wakes up a little bit for me, and whenever I wake up, he comes back in bed with me a little bit. So
it's just routine, like I can fall asleep. I mean, if I work out, I can fall asleep with anything.
Oh, dude! If I'm exercising, I'm like dead to the FA. I'm dead to the world at night. I'll sleep to them earthquakes. So where were we? Chat's working a verb. Kelly's giving me a noun.
Platypus.
Yeah, I love that.
Can I suggest? I don't know why he's been on my mind lately, but me and Amanda were talking about what Muppet we would be, and I said that I'd be Fozzie Bear. Can we just add Fozzie Bear into this Mad Libs, please?
If it's possible. If it has a place, we will see about it.
That's okay. I just wanted to see if I could get away with that.
Well, I mean, if you come up with a noun, then it's all you. But right now, you have a type of food.
Okay, how about John? I would Waffle Houses.
I've never actually been to one, but I'm very familiar with the concept.
How about greasy ass Waffle House nachos?
Yeah.
Give you the if you have like issues with your gallbladder, it'll knock you the fuck down into your. You'll get on your knees after you eat those nachos. We were pulled up to we were on a road trip. We stopped at a Waffle House because it was literally the only thing within miles. And I had the nachos, and I was miserable for about 2 or 3 hours because my gallbladder cannot handle that much grease.
I don't think there's a power in the verse that would convince me to get nachos at Waffle House.
I can't believe they sell nachos at Waffle House, but I didn't want waffles. I wanted like something with meat on it, but I don't. It was just regrettable. Very regrettable.
That sounds regrettable. What verbs do we have from you guys? Slap, rub, cock slap. Yes, that is a verb, sketch therapy. And the winning verb, because all your verbs are great, but come on, cock slap wins.
Cock slap wins.
Oh God. Oh God. I just saw where this fits into the story, and it's too late. It's written down in ink.
I'm ready.
Cool. Guys, you're working on a female first name next, chat. We don't discriminate, though. It can be a male name, too. Kelly, you get a silly word.
A silly word? Wait, is that like a made-up word?
Yes. Can also just be a really funny sounding word, even if it has a meaning.
Crapazoid.
Yeah.
Crapazoid. I love that.
I am very pleased with your choices. And SweetP, you have a noun.
I have a noun.
Where is a noun?
Fozzie Bear. Fozzie
there
Bear.
You go.
Yay.
All right. And the chat is working on our first name, female. Party Boob is not a first name.
Like a title than a first name, actually.
Probably could be. Lilo. Tanisha. Isabel. Jasmine. I don't know. I feel like Party Boob is a name at this point. It just is because I decided it would be. I love Andy from the UK. The end.
Oh, right. Andy, was that yours?
It was. Chat is working on a type of liquid. Kelly, you have a noun.
Sewage.
Oh.
Yes. SweetP, you have a verb.
I have a verb. How about so many words that are running through my head right now. The gambit, the Rolodex.
Right.
Just turning. I'm trying to think of a good word. I want to use a word I've never used. How about so I have a verb. How about prairie dogging? If anybody knows what prairie dogging is.
Yep.
You ever seen Rat Race? That movie? Dad, it's prairie dogging. You have to like poop out the windows. That movie.
Oh my God, Will Gantry's really winning at this. He has, for liquids, he's given us jizz, horse piss. We've also got from DJ James Baker, horse piss, brake fluid, Mr. Party Boob's vodka from Corey Cochran. John 42 gave us bourbon, Ben vs. Reality, gender fluid, Will Gentry back and mucus. But I got to go with jizz. It's just classic. Sometimes classic is good. All right, ladies, ready to hear the story we wrote? Lift your spirits. We wrote about alcohol tonight. You guys ready?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. In my day, bars were bars, not slipping lounges for young folks with their fancy parading shitlord pandas from China. Back then,
from China.
This actually sounds like an old person bitching about fucking.
I know. You did.
Back then,
like
the bartender was like a sleepy town bottom bitch proctologist, listening to your problems spasmodically and giving spontaneous advice. The patrons were like, good beef for curtains, and everybody knew your hot pocket.
Everybody knew your hot pocket.
Oh God! In those days, the barkeep knew how to make a stiff platypus.
Oh.
There was only one kind of vodka and no silly flavors like greasy ass Waffle House nachos.
Nasty.
Beer was easier too. You got a pint of whatever was on tap. Today, the kids cock slap for so-called craft beers.
That's honestly true. That, oh my God, that works so well. It's not even
with names like DJ Close's Crapazoid IPA. I'm gonna make that beverage one day in honor of DJ Close, our resident alcoholic. We used to sit at the old Fozzie Bear Tavern, drinking our mug.
Oh my God, Fozzie Bear did have a tavern.
And singing songs like this. My dear party boob, my lovely sewage. She left with the satchel and sack. So pass the whiskey, prairie dog a glass, and pray she won't come back.
Oh my God.
Sigh. I hear they're knocking the old place down to make room for a coffee shop. I guess I'll have to fill my mug with jizz from now on.
Oh, honestly, like if that was the case, like if this old person was forced to go to this coffee house, then yeah, he would be, drinking the jizz, kissing ass. He'd be a toady, a boot.
This actually does sound like it was written by some really creatively, by a curmudgeon with a creative vocabulary.
A curmudgeon with a creative vocabulary who's also drunk. Too.
Man, I could definitely stand. God damn it. TJ Close doesn't really like IPAs. I don't care. That makes sense then. That's why you made the Crapazoid IPA, because you don't like them. So it's DJ Close's Crapazoid IPA. It's actually crappy because it tastes nothing like an IPA, but it's a really good
Fozzie Bear's Tavern. He did
That's
have
the
a
only
tavern.
place. Fozzie Bear's Tavern is the only place you can get DJ Close's Crapazoid IPA. So
and Fozzie Bear. I love Fozzie Bear.
And here's all. I personally am ready to do what my man is doing and drift off into Never Never Land, because one of our cats, Japan Cake, decides that we don't deserve sleep anymore, that he should knock things down all fucking night instead. But this has been an amazing stream. I loved everything that we got to do and talk about tonight. It was so great. I love you both. You guys both are welcome here any and all times. Links for Jedi Bunny's channel and Twitter are in the chat. Links for SweetP's Instagram is in the chat. So make sure you guys follow them in those places. And yes,
wonderful time tonight. It was great. It was great. I'm so happy I got to meet Kelly. I was like, Jedi Bunny. We'll have to talk about Alien one day. We'll have to talk about that. Yeah. I would love to talk about aliens, or Ellen Ripley in general. It's like one of my favorite female characters. But
oh my gosh, me too. We didn't even get into that. I want to talk about them for sure.
Part 2. No, I'm just kidding.
I like both. I like, but part 2, that's where she really shines. Yeah.
I would love to do another stream with you guys where we talk alien versus aliens.
Yeah, I'm down. Like, just whenever you're ready, whenever you feel like we can, then I will be here. I will be here. I'm always down. And hopefully this damn freaking polar vortex goes away by then.
Yes. Jeez. Kelly, any last things you want to share with the mindless mob before we?
I had a really beautiful time tonight. This was so special. I don't stream with other people very often because I get really nervous, but I don't even stream on my own channel often because I get really nervous. But this has been beautiful and really fun and entertaining and meaningful and a whole spectrum of things that I love. So thank you guys both so much. And thank you to the chat. I've been watching the chat. I just haven't been able to interact with it. So hi, everybody. Because I'm kind of like SweetP where I get distracted really easily. So
yes.
I do have a YouTube channel. I just uploaded a video on Star Wars and existentialism.
I was watching that today, by the way.
I love that one. I needed to do it. It's a big part of who I am. So
I'm excited to watch
check out more about me. But yeah, that's it. I don't really consider myself a YouTuber. I just sometimes connect on here, and I really appreciate the community.
A commentator whenever we need one. Whenever she graces us with her presence, like she'll like God in a way. Like, I guess I'll come down here and tell you guys what I think.
Oh God,
that's so silly. But,
well, here's that video right down there. If you guys want to go check it out right now, if you have some energy.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah.
Well, of course, and I'm excited to take a look at it. So Jeff and I will watch it probably together tomorrow. Will Gentry says, Kelly, you should do quiet little one-on-one talks on your channel. I, for one, would love to have a chat with you sometime. That would actually be a really, you should do also use a lot. You could do on and with your channel. I think people are hungry for your perspective, and need it. That's why I look at art. You know, as soon as somebody else knows about your project and is interested in it, you don't own it anymore because somebody else has a connection to the work. I thought about that. I have a responsibility to finish my song that I've been playing on my streams and working on the solo for and stuff, because I have friends who already said, your song got stuck in my head. Well, great. If you like the song and you want to hear it, I need to give you an opportunity to hear it. You know, one of the most talented editors of all time, you know, is intrigued by my screenplay idea. Well, great. If somebody with that good of an eye for film thinks this idea is worth pursuing, well, then he deserves to see the finished version, and everybody else who may also respond well to the story deserve to have it written for them. Art is not a selfish undertaking. It's not a selfish pursuit. It's not about me and what I want to create. It's 100% about the way the things you create affect the people who interact with them. If it wasn't about the audience's interaction, we would just create, you wouldn't be an artist. You would create art for yourself at home and you would never share it with anybody.
Not to mention that the way to tell a society is simply by what art it heralds or champions too. And so right now art is really important, and I think we need more good art.
And by that token, Kelly, you have a unique perspective that and things to say that nobody else is saying. It's very easy to convince yourself that you don't have something to offer because you hear a lot of people talking over the same points over and over. But, you know, SweetP, there's a reason that you, of all the people that, you know, I interact with me on a daily basis, are here on the stream now. And same with you, Kelly. You both have things to say. You both have voices. And they're important. And so, yeah, Kelly, you should do more with your channel. If you have time and you want to, it's your decision, but just remember that you do have something to offer. I mean, the way that people respond to you every time you show up, people get very excited to see you. And SweetP, same to you. You know, it's the second time on the channel and people are singing your praises already. So remember that's something that's a gift that you have and a responsibility. You know, if you have I think that very, very strongly. If you have a gift, a talent, something to give that can help other people, I believe we have a responsibility to share that.
Yeah. And it's all about perspective. I mean, you could, you know, like think of the fandom menace. I mean, everything that can and has been said about what's happening with Star Wars is feasibly has already been said, but you never know. Somebody new could come in and you know, completely have a different perspective on it. It still agree with everybody, but it could be like, oh, I never thought about it that way, or that makes sense. You know, like I you know, so it's all about what you bring to the table, and everyone has something to offer. I really believe that everyone is different. Like, we're all individuals here. You know, no one's going to keep us in a box. Not me. And so the same goes for you. But yeah, I like watching your content. Like, I loved your Dr. Sleep video because I'm a huge fan of Dr. Sleep. But anyway, so this is a wonderful, you're welcome. This was just a wonderful stream. I agree with Kelly completely that it was magic. And, you know, it was just a lot of fun. And I'm so happy I got to be here in spite of the weather. And I was going to show up either way. I would have sat in my damn car if I had to with the heat on. I would have done it.
I'm glad you made it, but I'm glad you made it, you know, in someplace comfortable with heat. Almost tactical. Great advice. Says own your space. And thank you for the super chat. That will be the last super chat of the night. Thank you everyone for being here, for supporting the Mindless Mob, for supporting Jedi Bunny and SweetP. You guys are all the best. Keep an eye on the channel. Thursday, if I can get it done in time, Thursday will be part 1 of the Richard Chu interview. So fucking excited.
I'm so excited about that too.
Oh my God. Also Thursdays when I'll be sitting down with him again and we'll be covering the 70s, which includes Star Wars. So obviously.
Excellent.
It's going to be so exciting. But those will be coming out on Thursdays for the next minimum 4 weeks. We may even do extras. Who knows? This is fucking incredible. Also, there'll be some extra stuff. There's some extra conversations, some bits that aren't going to make the final thing that will only be available on Patreon. So I feel completely, I've been feeling so guilty because I've been doing crap on Patreon for the past year in terms of actually putting up content. But I'm going to give you conversations you cannot get anywhere else with the Academy Award-winning editor of Star Wars. So I am giving you something that is nowhere else on Patreon, and I now feel 0% bad about dropping the ball.
It happens.
Says, I wish people would start taking calls and I can better explain myself. I still love you guys. Jeff and I actually talked about, for funsies, doing a call-in line, like getting a burner phone to do a call-in line. But it's good for things like that too. And it's like, hey, I wanted to actually, you know, clarify something. Although I don't know if we start other people using for that. The problem is, DJ Close, is that if we open up a line to let our listeners clarify or explain themselves or engage in the conversation, not every listener is as cool or interested in having a conversation as you are. Some of our listeners are just interested in trying to utilize that avenue to push their own perspective. That said, I'm very happy that we were able to sort things out just, you know, with you in the chat and me over here. And some people do it. I mean, that's cool. But it's, again, the thing DJ Close with that is when you get into doing it, it also becomes, then you get into the territory too of, if you have this open kind of policy of, oh yeah, we let people kind of speak their mind on the channel, well, then you have to let everyone do it, or it becomes very, very obvious that certain people don't get a shake and certain people do. And I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but there are also some people who I just don't want to be on the channel. I'm not going to bring them on the channel. They don't belong, you know, being on a stream. It's nothing personal. It's not that I don't like somebody, but again, you know, we go back to the whole thing. I run a business, you know, DJ Close, it would be fun to hang up on the trolls. The problem, again, though, it's not really, I wish it was as black and white as like decent people and trolls. A lot of what there is, though, are well-intended listeners who don't understand when it is time to chill, let it go, move on, etc. You know, and so it's the kind of thing where it's like, hey, this is a listener that I will never have a problem with if they remain in the chat. But if I start trying to bring them on my show, problems. That's it. Yeah. I mean, Grandma for Christmas did invite us on for a minute. We did that once. We did a hot seat once before. And I'm not above doing that again. I actually enjoy that. And I enjoy finding opportunities to give listeners a voice and give them a chance to speak. I mean, look, we'll have them with SweetP. So something like that, where it's like where it's a finite, where there are parameters so that I can be protected from either opening myself up to every single crazy or then pissing off every single person who didn't get their chance. You know, solutions that do that. I'm happy to entertain any and all of them. So if you guys have ideas of ways to bring listeners more involved, you know, on the channel, bring their perspectives into the mix, I'm always ears for that. And thanks for just bringing up that concept at all, DJ Close. And thank you again for this this final super chat from Almost Tactical. Own your space. Great advice to end on, as well as practice makes wrong. And with that, God Empress.